first thing I noticed was the blue shoe covers. There were about a dozen people standing on my front walk, each holding a pair. A young couple had already pulled theirs over their shoes. Another man was studying the windows like he was pricing them in his head. My son, Nathan, stood beside my front door with a folder pressed against his chest. His wife, Kristen, was next to him. Michelle Walker, a real estate broker I knew by sight, had one hand on the electronic lockbox attached to my doorknob. Nathan saw me coming up the walk. "Dad," he said, "we need to talk before everybody goes in. My name is Rodney Hanson, and I'm 68 years old. What city are you listening from?" "I live at 418 Maple Street in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I bought the place with my wife, Ellen, when Nathan was still young enough to sleep through a furnace repair. It's a small brick bungalow with a narrow driveway and a detached garage that leans just enough to worry strangers. That Sunday morning, there was a sale sign in my front yard. I hadn't put it there. Kristen stepped toward me and lowered her voice. "Can we please keep this calm?" I looked at the sign, then at the people waiting outside my house. "Keep what calm?" Nathan held up the folder. "The bank needs one more thing from us." Michelle stopped touching the lockbox. She looked from Nathan to me. "What thing?" I asked. Nathan swallowed. "We need you to co-sign." That question didn't come from nowhere. It came after 5 years of small favors, quiet permissions, and things I should have questioned sooner. To explain how I ended up standing outside my own home while strangers waited to walk through it, I have to go back to when I first gave Nathan access to my finances. Ellen died in 2020. I won't tell you grief made me helpless. It didn't. I kept working. I paid my bills. I cleaned the house every Thursday because that was the day Ellen had always done it. I even kept buying the same coffee she liked, although I thought it tasted burned. What grief did was make silence harder. The house became loud in ways an empty house shouldn't. The refrigerator clicked. The boiler settled. Wind moved the branch outside our bedroom window. I would come home from a service call and leave the television running while I ate. Nathan called every few days at first. "You doing okay, Dad?" "I'm fine." "You eating?" "I know how to eat. I mean real food. Peanut butter is real food." He'd laugh, and then we'd talk about something practical. His truck needed brakes. One of the rental units he and Kristen owned had a bathroom fan that quit. Their kitchen faucet dripped. I started showing up with tools. That became easier than telling him I missed his mother. Nathan was grateful. I want to be fair about that. He never watched me drag a compressor down basement stairs without taking the heavy end. He brought coffee. He cleaned up. He said thank you. Kristen said thank you too, but hers usually came with another request. "The upstairs tenant says the back bedroom stays cold. We're thinking of replacing the water heater before winter. Could you listen to the furnace? It makes a sound when it starts. I'd listen. I'd fix it. If a part cost less than a few $100s, I usually paid for it and never mentioned it again. That was my mistake, though I didn't call it that then. I called it helping family. In 2021, I needed surgery on my right shoulder. 40 years of lifting furnaces and reaching into sheet metal cabinets had worn it down. The surgeon said I'd spend weeks with my arm strapped against my body. 2 days before the operation, Nathan drove me to an office downtown. I signed a durable financial power of attorney so he could handle my bills if the medication made me foggy. He could deal with the utility company, pay contractors, and sign for repairs on the bungalow. The woman who prepared it slid the original toward me. "You remain in control," she said. "This does not take anything away from you. If you want to end his authority later, you can revoke it." "I understand." Nathan tapped the table with one finger. "This is just until you're back on your feet." That's the idea. I took the original home and put it in a locked firebox in my bedroom closet. Nathan received a certified copy. He kept it in the desk drawer at his apartment. The surgery went well. For a few weeks, Nathan paid my electric bill and arranged for a man to clear snow from the sidewalk. He stopped by with groceries. Kristen brought soup once and stood in the kitchen rearranging things while I tried to tell her where they belonged. "You shouldn't keep the heavy pans down there," she said. "They've been down there since 1993. That doesn't make it a good idea." Ellen would have liked that answer. I almost said so, but I didn't. By the next year, my shoulder worked well enough. I returned to service calls. I could lift my toolbox, though I'd learned to use my left hand more. I meant to cancel the power of attorney. I kept putting it off. Nathan wasn't using it anymore, as far as I knew. The original sat in the firebox. The certified copy sat in his drawer. It felt like paperwork that had served its purpose. There was always something more immediate to do. A blower motor failed at one of their rentals. Their property tax payment came due after 2 tenants left in the same month. Kristen's car needed tires. Nathan called each time with the same careful opening. Dad, I hate to ask. Sometimes he did hate it. I could hear that much. But he kept asking. Over time, the requests stopped sounding temporary. I became part of their household budget without anybody saying so. If a furnace failed, they called me before calling the property manager. If a bill ran high, Kristen asked whether I could cover it until the next rent came in. If they wanted to improve a unit, Nathan asked what materials I could get through my supplier. At first, I liked being the first call. That's embarrassing to admit, but it's true. I'd lost the person who knew me when I wasn't fixing anything. Being useful gave me somewhere to go. It put my boots by another back door. It gave Nathan a reason to call at 7 in the morning. I didn't notice when usefulness became the price of admission. Early in 2026, Nathan and Kristen started talking about moving. They lived in an apartment over one of their rental units. It had 2 bedrooms, low ceilings, and a kitchen table pushed against the wall. Kristen had never liked it. One Saturday, I was replacing a thermostat in the downstairs unit. Nathan came down carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Kristen found a house, he said. Found one to look at, or found one she's already decorating? He smiled. You know her. How much? He took a drink before answering. $385,000. I looked at him over the thermostat. That's a lot of house. It's not crazy for the area. I didn't say crazy. You made the face. What face? The money face. I tightened the last wire. Can you afford it? We're working through that. That answer bothered me. Nathan usually knew his numbers. What does working through it mean? The bank wants more documentation. The rentals make it complicated, then give them the documentation. We are. He shifted his weight. For a second, I thought he was going to ask me for money. Instead, he picked up the old thermostat and turned it over in his hand. Kristen thinks we should move quickly. Kristen usually does. Dad, I'm just saying, a house will still be there after you read the papers. He set the thermostat down. We're reading them. All right, I believed him. A week later, Kristen invited me to dinner. She'd ordered chicken from a place on Washington Street and transferred it to her own serving dish. She only did that when she wanted the table to look nicer than the meal required. Nathan sat across from me. He barely spoke. Kristen asked about my work, my shoulder, and whether the steps at my bungalow bothered me. The 2 steps to my porch? You know what I mean, long term. I plan to keep using them. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We're just trying to think ahead. We? Nathan and me. Nathan looked down at his plate. I put my fork down. Think ahead about what? If you ever wanted something easier, maybe a condo, less maintenance. My house doesn't need less maintenance. It has me. I know, for now. There was nothing openly cruel in the words. That was what made them hard to grab. Nathan changed the subject to the new house. It had a finished basement, a larger garage, and a backyard Kristen described as private even though I'd seen the listing photo. The neighbors could have passed coffee through the kitchen windows. What did the bank say? I asked. Nathan glanced at Kristen. They're reviewing everything. That's different from approval. It's moving, Kristen said. We're confident. I waited for Nathan to explain. He didn't. On the way out, I noticed 3 pamphlets on a small table by the door. One was about simplifying finances for older adults. Another advertised in-home support. The third showed a smiling gray-haired couple standing outside a condominium. I picked up the top one. Who are these for? Kristen kept gathering plates. I thought you might want to look. Why? No reason? You said the shoulders still get stiff. A stiff shoulder doesn't require in-home support. Nathan came over and took the pamphlet from my hand. She's trying to be helpful. I didn't ask for help. No one said you did. Kristen turned from the sink. You don't have to make everything an argument, Rodney. I looked at Nathan. He folded the pamphlet once, then flattened it again. I'm not arguing, I said. I'm asking why you're discussing my future without me. We're not, Nathan said quickly. Kristen ran water over a plate. Forget it. Throw them away. Nathan walked me downstairs. Outside, he stood beside my truck with his hands in his pockets. She worries, he said. About me or about the house? He looked toward the upstairs window. Don't start. I haven't started anything. She's under pressure. From what? The purchase, the bank, everything. So, there is a problem with the financing. He rubbed the back of his neck. It's being handled. By who? He opened my truck door for me. I'll call you tomorrow. He didn't. 2 days later, I realized my gas bill hadn't arrived. I kept household mail in a wooden tray by the refrigerator. Ellen bought it at a church craft sale years ago. Bills went on the left. Paid receipts went on the right. The gas bill came within the same 3-day range every month. I checked the tray twice. Then I checked the recycling bin, thinking I might have opened it and forgotten. I hadn't. I signed into my account online. The balance was normal, but the mailing address had been changed. The bill was going to Nathan's apartment. I called him from the kitchen. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Dad, I'm at work. Why is my gas bill going to your place?" There was a pause. "What?" "The mailing address changed." "Oh, that?" "Yes, that. I was helping you organize a few things. When did I ask?" "You didn't. I noticed you paid last month late. I paid it 1 day late. I know. It's not a big deal. It was my day to get the stitches out of my hand. I'm not criticizing you. You change where my bill goes. I can change it back." I looked at the quiet kitchen. Ellen's wooden tray sat empty on the left side. "How did you change it?" Another pause. "I'm still authorized." That was the first time in years Nathan had mentioned the power of attorney. I lowered myself into a chair. "What else did you change?" "Nothing. You answered too fast." "Dad, I have to get back. Bring me the certified copy." "What?" "The copy from your desk." "Bring it over." "Why?" "Because I want to see it. It's the same document you signed. Then bringing it shouldn't be difficult." He let out a breath. "Tonight's bad. Tomorrow?" "I'll check with Kristen." "You don't need to check with Kristen. It's my document." He went quiet. That silence answered one small question. Kristen knew he was still using it. "All right," he said. "Tomorrow." After we hung up, I called the gas company myself. I verified my identity and moved the bill back to Maple Street. It took 11 minutes. Then I went to the bedroom closet, knelt beside the firebox, and turned the key. The original power of attorney was exactly where I had left it. I read the first page at the edge of my bed, then found the section I remembered. Nathan's authority remained active. Mine had never gone away. I locked the original back inside, put the key in my pocket, and drove to Nathan's apartment before he had time to warn Kristen. He was still in his work clothes when he opened the door. "You couldn't wait until tomorrow?" "I was nearby. You live 15 minutes away. Then I was 15 minutes nearby." He stepped aside. The apartment smelled like fried onions and laundry detergent. Nathan's boots were lined beneath a bench. Kristen's purse was on the kitchen counter, but I didn't see her. "Is she here?" I asked. "She's taking a shower. I came for the copy." Nathan shut the door. "I said I'd bring it." "You also said you'd call yesterday. I got busy." He walked to a small desk in the corner of the living room. I'd helped him assemble it 3 years earlier. One drawer had never closed correctly because he'd put the rails on backward. He pulled that drawer open. The certified copy was inside a yellow envelope. He took it out, but he didn't hand it to me. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "I want to know what you think this lets you do." His face changed. "Dad, come on." "That isn't an answer. It lets me handle bills and property matters if you need help." "I didn't need help." "You missed a payment. By 1 day. It wasn't only the gas bill." "What else?" He looked toward the hallway. I held out my hand. "Give me the paper." He passed it over. The raised seal was still pressed into the corner. My name was on the first page. Nathan's was beneath it. The document hadn't changed. I turned through the pages anyway. There were no notes, no extra sheets, and no strange attachments. That gave me a small amount of relief. At least I was looking at the same authority I had signed. Then I reached the last page. A sticky note was attached near the bottom. It had 2 account numbers written in Kristen's handwriting. One was for my gas service. The other was my homeowner's insurance policy. I tapped it. "Why is my insurance number here?" Nathan looked at the note. "I don't know. You keep this in your drawer. Kristen might have written it. That part I figured out." The bathroom door opened down the hall. Kristen came out wearing sweatpants and a gray sweatshirt. Her hair was wrapped in a towel. She stopped when she saw me holding the document. "What's going on?" I asked Nathan why my insurance information is attached to this. She crossed the room and picked up her phone. "We were checking whether your coverage was current." "Why?" "You mentioned that leak near the chimney." "It wasn't a leak, it was condensation." "We didn't know that then." "You didn't ask me." She gave Nathan a look. He leaned against the desk. Kristen, just tell him. She set the phone down harder than necessary. We're trying to get things organized. There's that word again. What word? Organized. You act like we're doing something terrible. I'm asking what you did. We checked a policy, using my account number. Nothing was changed. Did you call them? She hesitated. We asked a question. Did you tell them you were me? No. Did Nathan use the power of attorney? Nathan answered before she could. I confirmed I was authorized. I looked at him. For what? To ask when the policy renews. The notice comes to my house. It did, Kristen said. The way she said it caught me. What does that mean? She pulled the towel from her hair and draped it over one shoulder. It means you leave mail sitting around. My mail sits in a tray until I pay it. You lost the property tax notice last fall. I didn't lose it. It was under a parts catalog. That's losing it. The taxes were paid. After Nathan reminded you. I turned to him. How did you know they were due? He stared at the carpet. Kristen answered. He gets the county email reminders. On my property? For your property, she said. There's a difference. I folded the certified copy along its existing crease. Nathan pushed away from the desk. Dad, don't bend that. That one sentence told me more than he meant it to. He was worried about the document, not because I needed it, because he did. I smoothed the page against the desktop. Why do you still need this, in case something happens? I'm standing here. Something could still happen. What? He looked tired now. I don't know. You fall, you get sick. Your shoulder goes bad again. My shoulder isn't in charge of my checking account. That's not what I meant. Kristen opened a cabinet and took out a glass. We're not trying to take over your life. Then stop doing things I didn't ask you to do. We're trying to prevent problems. Whose problems? Neither of them answered. I held the certified copy out to Nathan. For 1 second, I considered putting it inside my jacket instead. I didn't. He took it and slid it into the yellow envelope. That decision bothered me before I even left the room. I could tell myself the document belonged to him because it was his certified copy. I could say I wanted time to think. The truth was simpler. I didn't want to turn a tense evening into a break with my son. Nathan put the envelope back in the drawer. I'll change the gas address, he said. I already changed it. He blinked. Oh, it took 11 minutes. Kristen filled her glass at the sink. No one said you couldn't do it. I looked at her back. That seems to disappoint you. She turned off the faucet. You came over here looking for a fight. No, I came looking for my mail. Nathan walked me to the door. Can we talk tomorrow? We're talking now. Without Kristen. She's part of it. I know. He glanced over his shoulder, then he lowered his voice. She gets an idea in her head, and if I push too hard, everything becomes a whole thing. So you let it become my thing. He closed his eyes for a moment. I'll fix it. Fix what, exactly? The mail. The account access. Whatever is bothering you. I waited. He didn't mention returning the certified copy. On the drive home, I passed the old building where Ellen and I had rented our first apartment. The laundromat downstairs was gone. Someone had turned it into a coffee shop with black tables and hanging plants. Ellen used to sit beside the front window on laundry nights. She brought a paperback and a jar of quarters. I would come after work smelling like furnace oil, and she'd hand me half a sandwich without asking whether I was hungry. She never needed me to earn my place at that table. I knew that. I just hadn't thought about it in a long time. At home, I hung my jacket on the hook by the kitchen door. I checked the wooden mail tray again. The right side held receipts. The left side was empty. I opened my laptop and went through every household account I could remember. Electric, water, internet, insurance, property taxes. The electric bill still came to Maple Street. The water account did too. The insurance website showed my address correctly, but Nathan's phone number had been added as an alternate contact. I removed it. A confirmation box appeared. I clicked it, then printed the updated page. My printer made the grinding sound it always made before feeding paper. I listened to it and felt foolishly pleased. It wasn't a major victory. I had removed a phone number from my own account. Still, it was mine again. The next morning, Nathan called while I was loading tools into my van. I talked to Kristen, he said. That must have been exciting. Can you not? I'm listening. She says she only put her number on the insurance because you didn't answer when the agency called. When did they call? Last month. I was working, I know. Did they leave a message? Probably. Then I would have called back. He exhaled into the phone. This is what I mean. Every little detail turns into a trial. I asked 3 questions. She was trying to help. I closed the rear door of the van. Why are you calling? To tell you we'll leave the accounts alone. We, both of us. And the certified copy? There was a pause. I think we should keep that active for now. Why? Because you're still working. I waited for the rest. He stumbled into it. You're on ladders. You drive all over. You go into basements alone. I've done that since before you were born. That doesn't make it safe. Did Kristen tell you to say that? No. He answered too quickly again. I leaned against the van. What does my work have to do with your house? Nothing. Then why did you bring it up after I asked about the document? I'm worried about you. That isn't how worry sounds. What does it sound like? It sounds like you want the authority more than you want the conversation. The line went quiet. Then he said, I have to go. That afternoon, he called again. His voice was lighter, like the morning hadn't happened. You busy Saturday? I usually am. The downstairs furnace is short cycling. Which rental? South 19th. What's the thermostat set at? 70, but it shuts down at 66. Did you check the filter? Yes. Did you actually check it? He laughed. No? There he was again. My son. The same one who used to call me from his first apartment because the toilet kept running. I could picture him standing beside the furnace, phone tucked between his shoulder and ear. I'll stop after lunch, I said. Thanks, Dad. Buy a filter first. What size? I wrote it on the cabinet. I knew there was a reason I kept you around. He meant it as a joke. I laughed anyway. Saturday, I drove to South 19th Street. Nathan was waiting on the porch with coffee. He had bought the correct filter. The furnace was in a low basement with stone walls. I knelt beside it while Nathan held a flashlight. The filter was packed with dust. You said you checked it. I looked at the slot. That's not checking. I'm learning. You've owned this place 4 years. I'm learning slowly. I replaced the filter and tested the furnace. It ran longer, but the burner still shut off early. The flame sensor's dirty, I said. Expensive? No. I pulled it, cleaned it, and put it back. The furnace started and stayed on. Nathan smiled. That's why I call you. I sat back on my heels. Because I'm free? Because you know what you're doing. Those aren't the same thing. I know. I looked at him. Do you? He set the flashlight on a pipe. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me what's happening with the house. We made an offer. That was the first straight answer I'd received. Was it accepted? He nodded. When? Thursday, 2 days earlier. The morning we argued about the power of attorney. How much did you offer? Full price? $385,000? Yes. Do you have financing? We have a conditional pre-approval. What's the condition? He stood and brushed dust from his jeans. The bank wants stronger support. That still isn't an answer. It's complicated. No. Heating controls are complicated. A bank condition is written on paper. His jaw tightened. Kristen has the mortgage folder. Then ask her. She's handling it. And what are you handling? His eyes went to the furnace. This. I stood slowly. My knees cracked. You called me. I'm here, aren't I? Holding a flashlight, he picked up the old filter. I said, thank you. I know. Then what's this really about? I looked at the basement steps. A strip of daylight showed beneath the door. I'm trying to figure that out. Nathan carried the dirty filter outside. I packed my tools. Upstairs, the tenant had left a rent envelope on the kitchen counter. Nathan opened it, counted the bills, and tucked them into his pocket. Can you send me an invoice? He asked. For the sensor cleaning? For all of it. Kristen wants better records. I've never invoiced you, I know. She thinks we should start. Fine. He looked surprised. You don't mind? No. Parts, labor, trip charge. His mouth opened. You're charging labor? You asked for an invoice. I meant for the part. The part didn't drive here. Dad? What? He rubbed his forehead. Never mind. Just tell me what I owe. I named the same amount I charge regular customers for that work. It wasn't high, but it wasn't free. Nathan took out his phone and sent the payment before I left. The money reached my account while I was sitting in the van. That should have felt ordinary. Instead, it felt like I had taken something from him. I stared at the confirmation until the screen dimmed. For years, I had paid for parts, skipped labor charges, and treated every request as proof I still mattered. Nathan had learned that calling me cost nothing. Kristen had learned it too. They hadn't created that arrangement by themselves. I started the van and wrote the service charge in my notebook. Then I turned to a clean page and listed every account Nathan could still reach with the authority I had left active. The first line was gas. The second was electric. Then water, insurance, property taxes, internet, and the checking account I used for household bills. I wrote Nathan's access beside each one. For gas, he had changed the mailing address. For insurance, his phone number had been added. The property tax reminders went to his email. I didn't know about the others yet. On Monday morning, I moved my first service call to the afternoon. Then I sat at the kitchen table with coffee, my notebook, and my account folders. I called the insurance agency first. A woman named Dana answered. I gave her my policy number and verified my identity. "I need to know who contacted you about this policy last month," she typed for a few seconds. "I have a note from your authorized representative." "My son, Nathan?" "Yes." "What did he ask for?" "He requested the renewal date and a copy of the declarations page." "Where did you send it?" "I can see that it was emailed." "To which address?" She read Nathan's email address. I wrote it down, even though I already knew it. "What else did he ask?" "There's a note about estimated replacement cost." "My house?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" "I don't have a reason listed." "Did he ask to change the insurance?" "No changes were completed." "Completed?" "There was a question about occupancy." I sat straighter. "What question?" "He asked how the policy would be affected if the owner no longer occupied the property." The kitchen seemed very still. "What did you tell him?" "That we'd need more information before making any change." "Did he give you that information?" "No. The note says he would call back." "When was this?" She gave me a date from 9 days earlier. That was before the dinner with the pamphlets. "Send me the full contact note," I said. "I'm not sure we can provide internal notes. It concerns my policy and my house. Let me check." She put me on hold. I stared at the wooden mail tray while soft music played through the phone. When Dana came back, she said she could send a summary. I asked her to use my email only. I also added a verbal password to the account. "No one gets information without that password," I said. "Even your authorized representative?" That was a fair question. I looked at my notebook. "For now, require the password from everyone." "All right." I gave her a word Nathan wouldn't guess. The email arrived before we hung up. One deliberate phone call had worked. I had the date, the request, and the exact question Nathan asked. He wasn't only checking whether the policy was current. He wanted to know what happened when I moved out. I called the electric company next. Nathan had asked for my average monthly use over the previous year. He hadn't changed the address or service. The water department showed no contact from him. My internet account had his phone number as a recovery number. I removed it and changed the password. Then I called the county office. Nathan had signed up for public reminders under his own email. Anyone could do that, so there was nothing to remove. By noon, I had recovered control of every account on my list except the checking account. Nathan had no online login there. He could still act for me using the certified document, but the account history showed nothing unusual. I printed 3 months of statements. Every payment was mine. That should have reassured me. Instead, it showed me the problem was more focused than I'd hoped. Nathan wasn't wandering through my finances because he was careless. He was asking questions about the bungalow. I placed the insurance email inside my account folder. Then I called him. He answered quickly. "Everything okay? Why did you ask my insurance company what happens when I move out?" Silence. Then I heard a door close on his end. I was checking options. "What options?" "In case you decide to move." "I haven't." "I know." "Then why ask?" Kristen wanted to understand the policy. "Why does Kristen need to understand my policy?" "She's good at this stuff. She's good at asking questions about things she doesn't own." "Dad, you told me she only checked the renewal." I didn't remember the rest. "It happened 9 days ago. I've had a lot going on. Does the bank condition involve my house?" His breathing changed. "Not much, but enough." "No?" "Are you sure?" "Yes." That answer was clear. It was also the first one I didn't believe. "What condition did the bank give you?" "I told you, they want stronger support." "What kind?" "I have to get back to work." "You always have to get back to work when I ask for a noun." "What?" "Support means something. Income, cash, a co-signer." "Which one?" He didn't answer. Then someone spoke near him. I couldn't make out the words. Nathan covered the phone. When he came back, his voice was quieter. I'll explain everything when it's settled. That's backward. What is? You explain before you use my name? I didn't use your name with the bank. He sounded offended. I wrote that sentence in my notebook. Did Kristen? I have to go. The line disconnected. I sat at the table for another minute. Then I called Kristen. She sent me to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. That afternoon, I drove to a duplex near the lake and replaced an inducer motor. The customer was an older man who stood beside me the entire time. He asked what each wire did. Usually that would have annoyed me. That day I explained everyone. When I finished, he looked at the old motor. My daughter thinks I should sell this place, he said. Do you want to? No, then don't, he laughed. You make it sound easy. It should be. The word stayed with me on the drive home. There was a sedan parked in my driveway when I arrived. A woman stood on the porch holding a canvas bag and a clipboard. She wore a navy jacket with a small company logo on the chest. Mr. Hansen? She asked. Yes, I'm glad I caught you. Were we supposed to meet? She checked her clipboard. At 2:30. It's almost 4. I waited, then made a call from my car. To who? Kristen. I set my toolbox on the porch. What's your name? Dana Cole. It was a different Dana from the insurance agency. She handed me a business card. The card said she was a senior transition consultant. I looked at it, then at her. What transition? She blinked. I may have the wrong understanding. That makes 2 of us. She opened a folder. I was asked to assess the home for accessibility and discuss possible next steps. Who asked? Your daughter-in-law made the appointment. She isn't my daughter. I understand. I mean, your daughter-in-law. What did she tell you? Dana looked uncomfortable. She said the family was beginning a conversation. What conversation? Whether this home remains suitable for you. I took out my keys but didn't unlock the door. Did she say I requested this? She said you were hesitant. That isn't the same thing. No. Did she say I agreed? Dana looked down at her paperwork. The intake form says family authorized. Family can't authorize someone to inspect my house. I understand that. Do you? Yes, that's why I haven't gone inside. Her answer slowed me down. She had waited on the porch, called Kristen, and stayed outside. She wasn't trying to force her way in. What exactly were you supposed to do? Walk through the house, note mobility concerns, talk about maintenance, in-home support, and possible relocation. Relocation to where? No specific place is listed. Did Kristen mention a condo? Dana checked the form. She selected low-maintenance housing as an option. I thought about the pamphlet on their table. Did she pay you? A consultation deposit was made. Using whose money? I don't know. It was paid online. How much? She told me. It wasn't a large amount, but that didn't matter. Who was supposed to attend? You, Kristen, and Nathan. Neither of them is here. She said they might be delayed. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. What time did Kristen make the appointment? Last Thursday. The same day their offer was accepted. Can I see the intake form? Dana hesitated. It contains information provided by your family. About me? Yes. She turned the clipboard toward me. Most of it was ordinary. My address, my age, the fact that I lived alone. A note mentioned shoulder surgery, though it said my mobility remained limited. That was false. Another line said I had recently missed household payments. 1 payment, 1 day. Under family concerns, Kristen had listed forgetfulness, resistance to help, home maintenance burden, and financial disorganization. I read the words twice. Did Nathan sign this? There's an electronic acknowledgement. Whose name? She scrolled on a tablet. Nathan Hansen. Can you show me? She did. His name appeared beneath a statement confirming the information was accurate to the best of his knowledge. I took out my phone. May I photograph that? I can email you a copy. You're the subject of the consultation. Do that. She asked me to confirm my address. I watched her send it. The email came through. Cancel the appointment, I said. Of course. And note that I didn't request it. I will. Also note that I'm working full-time and entered my home without assistance. She gave a small nod. I can't make a clinical judgment. I'm not asking for one. All right, I'm asking you to write what you personally observed. She looked at the front steps. You arrived driving your own work van. You carried a toolbox to the porch. You answered questions clearly. You declined the consultation. That's enough. She wrote it in front of me. Then she refunded the deposit to the card that paid it. Will the receipt show the last 4 digits? I asked. Yes, send that too. She did. The card wasn't mine. That was one less thing to worry about. Dana packed her folder into the canvas bag. I'm sorry this wasn't clear, she said. You didn't make the appointment. No, you also didn't enter without me. No, sir, that matters. She walked to her car and left. I unlocked the front door. A folded sheet of paper lay on the floor inside. Someone had pushed it through the mail slot. It was another housing pamphlet. This one showed a row of condominiums near the river. There was no note, but I recognized Kristen's blue ink around one listing. She had circled a monthly fee and written manageable. I carried the pamphlet to the kitchen and set it beside the consultant's email. For the first time, I could see a pattern with dates. The insurance question came first, then their offer, then the consultant appointment, then the pamphlet. Nathan had denied the bank condition involved my house. Yet every action around that condition pointed toward me leaving it. I still didn't know what they planned to do with the bungalow. I didn't know how far Nathan had agreed to go. I only knew he had signed his name beneath statements about me that weren't true. That changed what I needed. I wasn't trying to protect a few accounts anymore. I needed to learn what my son had represented under an authority carrying my name. I placed the consultant's email in the folder with the insurance note. Then I drove to Nathan's workplace and waited beside his truck for him to come out. Nathan came through the employee entrance at 5:12. He was carrying his lunch bag and looking at his phone. He noticed my van first. Then he saw me. What happened? He asked. That depends on what you tell me. He glanced back at the building. Can we not do this here? We can sit in your truck. He unlocked it. I took the passenger seat. Nathan climbed behind the wheel but didn't start the engine. The cab smelled like coffee and damp work gloves. I handed him the printed consultant form. He read the first page without speaking. You signed it? I said. I clicked a box. Your name is beneath it. I didn't write the answers. You said they were accurate. I thought it was just an appointment request. It says my mobility is limited. You had shoulder surgery 5 years ago. You still rub it when the weather changes. That doesn't make me unable to use stairs. I didn't say it did. You signed a paper that says it does. Nathan dropped the form onto the center console. Kristen filled it out. I know. She said the woman would look at the house and make suggestions. Without telling me, we planned to tell you. When? Before she went inside. That isn't permission. He stared through the windshield. A man in a green work jacket passed the truck. Nathan waited until he was gone. Kristen thinks you shut down whenever she brings up moving. I shut down a conversation I never started. That's what I mean. No, it isn't. He pressed his thumb into the steering wheel. She worries the bungalow will become too much. She doesn't mow the lawn. That's not the point. She doesn't shovel the sidewalk. She doesn't clean the gutters. She doesn't pay the taxes. She has no burden to worry about. I worry. Then ask me how I'm doing. I do. You ask while handing me a broken furnace part. He looked at me. That landed. I didn't enjoy it. Nathan picked up the form again. What do you want? I want you to correct it. How? Call the consultant. Tell her those statements didn't come from me. She already canceled. The appointment is canceled. The record still says I'm forgetful and financially disorganized. It's not a medical record. I don't care what kind it is. He rubbed both hands over his face. Fine. Now. Dad. You signed it in 30 seconds. Correcting it shouldn't take longer. He found the number in his phone and called. Dana answered after 2 rings. Nathan put her on speaker. Hi, this is Nathan Hansen. I need to correct the intake form for my dad. Dana's voice became careful. What would you like corrected? The part about limited mobility. That isn't accurate. I pointed to the next line. And the missed payments, he added. There was 1 bill paid a day late. It wasn't a pattern. Anything else? He looked at me. The family concern section shouldn't say financial disorganization, Dana typed while he spoke. Did Mr. Hansen request the original consultation? No. Did he authorize you or your wife to request it? Nathan's jaw tightened. No. Thank you. I'll attach the correction. I leaned closer to the phone. Please send me a copy. I will, Mr. Hansen. The email arrived while we sat there. That was the first time Nathan had corrected one of Kristen's claims in front of me. He did it reluctantly, but he did it. I placed the new email behind the old form. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. Are we done? No. Of course not. What does North Shore Community Bank require? His head turned. How do you know the bank? I didn't. He realized what he had done. I watched his face. So it is North Shore. He started the truck, but kept it in park. You tricked me. I guessed a bank in Manitowoc. You could have asked. I did. Several times. He turned the engine off again. We have a conditional pre-approval. What's the condition? Our debt is high against the rental income. That's a reason, not the condition. They want additional support. From me. He tapped the key against the steering column. Kristen thinks you might help. How? We haven't decided. The bank decides what satisfies its condition. He didn't answer. Nathan, they gave us options. What options? One could be a cosigner. I felt my shoulders settle. There it was. One noun, and the other. He looked down at the key. Verified funds. Whose funds? It doesn't say yours, but Kristen thinks mine. She thinks there are ways to make the numbers work. Using my house? She thinks you might be ready for something smaller. That isn't what I asked. He opened his door, then closed it again. She keeps saying the bungalow has too much equity sitting in it. My equity isn't sitting. It's holding up my roof. I know. Does she? She isn't trying to steal your house. I didn't say she was. That's where you're going. I'm going wherever your answers take me. Nathan leaned back. We thought maybe you'd sell. Not tomorrow. Eventually. You could use part of it for a condo and help us with the rest. You thought that. We discussed it. With the bank? No. Did you use my name? No. Did Kristen? Not officially. I turned toward him. What does that mean? It means she said family support might be available, without asking the family. She planned to ask. She planned a consultant first. She thought if you saw the options, you'd be more open to giving you money, to making a change that might be good for everyone. There is no everyone in my deed. His eyes moved to the dashboard. I kept my voice level. Has any document concerning my bungalow been signed? No. The answer came after a pause, but not a long one. At that moment, I believed him. Has my power of attorney been shown to the bank? No. Sent anywhere else? Only the places you know about. Insurance and utilities? Yes. And the consultant? The form asked how I was authorized to help. So you uploaded it. A copy, the certified copy, a scan of it. I looked out the passenger window. A delivery truck backed toward the loading dock. Its warning tone sounded every few seconds. Delete the scan from the consultant's file. I can ask. Do it. He called Dana again. She agreed to remove the attachment because the consultation had been canceled. She sent written confirmation. Another small thing returned to me. It also confirmed that Nathan had started treating the document like identification he could hand out whenever someone questioned his involvement. You don't send that copy anywhere else, I said. I won't. You don't call another company for me. Okay. You don't change mail, contacts, or account settings. I said, okay, if I need help, I'll ask directly. He nodded. And if Kristen asks you, I'll tell her. Tell her what? That you don't want us involved. That isn't what I said. He looked confused. Then what are you saying? I'm saying involvement requires consent. It's the same thing. No, it isn't. I opened the door. Nathan reached for the forms. Can I have those? They're about me. They have my name. So does my power of attorney. He let go. Dad, please don't make this uglier than it is. I canceled an appointment I never requested. I corrected statements I never made. I restored mail I never moved. I fixed the form. You did. So, give me some credit. I did. I thanked you. That's not what I mean. I knew what he meant. He wanted the correction to erase the decision that made it necessary. I climbed out. Nathan, I need you to listen carefully. I'm not co-signing anything today. I'm not promising money. I'm not agreeing to move. We haven't asked you to. Good. Then this should be easy. He stared at me across the open door. Tell Kristen. He looked away. That was the part he couldn't promise. When I reached home, the corrected consultant form was still in my email. I printed it and placed it in the folder. Then I made a second list. This one wasn't about accounts. It was about statements, limited mobility, missed payments, financial disorganization, resistance to help, possible change in occupancy, family support available. None of those phrases had come from me. Someone else had been building a version of my life that made their plan sound reasonable. At 6:30, Kristen called. I heard you waited outside Nathan's job. I did. You embarrassed him. We sat in his truck. People saw you. People see trucks in parking lots. You know what I mean. I know what he told you. She was quiet for a moment. He came home upset. He corrected the consultant form. He had no right to change what I wrote. It was about me. It was based on what we've observed. You wrote that I have limited mobility. You do sometimes. When? You had trouble lifting your arm. 5 years ago. It still happened. I stood beside the kitchen counter, holding the phone away from my ear for a second. What does my shoulder have to do with your mortgage? This is exactly why I tried to approach things gently. By sending a stranger to my porch? She's a professional. She's also canceled. Because you made her uncomfortable. No. Because I said no. Kristen's voice sharpened. Do you understand how hard Nathan works? Yes. Do you understand what this house would mean to us? Yes. I don't think you do. Then explain it without using my property. We haven't used your property. I thought about Nathan's answer in the truck. No document had been signed. All right, I said. Keep it that way. She laughed once. There was no humor in it. You make everything sound like a threat. That was a boundary. We're your family. Then ask. We have asked for help for years. You've asked for repairs. You've asked for bills. You've asked for parts. You haven't asked me to sell my home. Not yet. The words came out before she could stop them. Neither of us spoke. Then she said, That isn't what I meant. It sounded clear. I meant we haven't had the full conversation. Because you started with everyone except me. We were gathering information about my house, about what's possible. What's possible is that you buy what you can afford. Her breathing became louder. That's cruel. No. Cruel would be waiting until you signed a purchase agreement to tell you. Another silence. This one lasted longer. I looked at the clock above the stove. When did you sign it? I asked. We're under contract. Nathan said the offer was accepted. Then you already know. I know the offer was accepted. I don't know what you promised. We didn't promise anything involving you. You told the bank family support was available. Nathan shouldn't have shared that. He didn't share much. That was the problem. You've helped before. That doesn't make future help automatic. No one said automatic. You arranged my mail, my insurance information, and a home assessment before asking. You're twisting this. I'm listing it. Kristen lowered her voice. The bank isn't going to hold the file open forever. There it was. A deadline, though she didn't give me the date. How long do you have? That isn't your concern unless you're willing to help. Then it isn't my concern. You don't mean that. I do? She disconnected. 10 minutes later, Nathan texted. Can you come over tomorrow evening? We need to talk as a family. I read it twice. Then another message appeared. Kristen wants everything on the table. I set the phone beside my notebook. They had spent weeks putting things on tables where I wasn't sitting. Now that I had started asking questions, they wanted a family meeting. I replied with one sentence. Bring the mortgage folder and the certified copy. Nathan replied a few minutes later. I'll bring the folder. I'm not bringing the certified copy until we talk. I typed 3 different answers and erased them all. Then I wrote 7 o'clock. The next morning, something scraped through my mail slot while I was making coffee. I heard footsteps cross the porch. By the time I opened the door, Kristen's car was pulling away from the curb. A large white envelope lay on the floor. My name was written across the front in her blue ink. Inside was a printed Wisconsin court form. The title included the words, Petition for Guardianship Based on Incompetency. Most of it was blank. The first page wasn't. My name, address, and date of birth had been entered. So had Nathan's contact information. A typed attachment described concerns about missed bills, poor financial organization, limited physical ability, and resistance to family assistance. The consultant's canceled visit was mentioned as an attempt to provide support. There was no signature, no court stamp. Nothing had been filed. A yellow note was stuck to the top. Please read before tonight. We need to consider every option. I carried it to the kitchen table. The coffee went cold beside me. I read every page. Most of the questions hadn't been answered. Kristen had marked the bungalow and checking account as assets requiring possible management. Possible management. That was how she described my home and money when she thought a form might be useful. I took pictures of every page. Then I placed the packet in my folder. At 8:15, Nathan called. Did Kristen drop something off? She did. She wasn't supposed to. Which part bothers you? The form or the delivery? She said it was informational. My name is typed into it. It isn't filed. Did you know she prepared it? Not until last night. Did you give her my date of birth? She knows your birthday. The year too, I guess. Did you give her my account information? No. The form lists my checking account. It doesn't have the number. That wasn't my question. He groaned. Dad, please don't turn a blank form into something it isn't. It isn't blank. It isn't a real petition without a signature. Whose signature was she expecting? I don't know. Yours? He didn't answer. Nathan? She wanted me to look at it. Did you agree? No, that came quickly. I believed him more than I had believed his other quick answers. Tell me exactly what you said. I said I wasn't signing anything that called you incompetent. What did she say? She said I was avoiding reality. Which reality? That you need more help than you admit. I looked around my kitchen. The counters were clean. My bills were paid. My work schedule sat beside the phone. Do you believe that? No. Then say it tonight in front of her. I will. And bring the certified copy. We'll talk about that. It stopped being a discussion when she typed my name on a court form. I didn't do that. You gave her room to do it. That's not fair. Neither is using my shoulder surgery as evidence against me. He lowered his voice. I have to work. So do I. I ended the call. At noon, I was replacing a heat exchanger in a small office building when my bank sent a text. A transfer of $2,000 had been made from my household checking account. I put down the socket wrench and read the message again. The destination showed only the last 4 digits. I didn't recognize them. I climbed out from beside the furnace and called the bank from the mechanical room. The representative verified me, then confirmed the transfer had been requested that morning by Nathan under the power of attorney. Where did it go? I asked. To an account held by Nathan Hansen. My hand tightened around the phone. What was the memo? Property preparation. For which property? I don't have that information. Can you stop it? It is already posted. Can you block another transfer? She explained that Nathan's authority remained active. The bank could add a note requesting that employees contact me, but it couldn't treat him as unauthorized while the document remained in force. I understood. I had signed it. I thanked her, added the note, and returned to the furnace. The office manager was waiting by the door. Everything all right? My son moved some money. Do you need to leave? No. I need to finish this. Physical work helped because the parts didn't change their answers. A cracked heat exchanger stayed cracked. A loose connection stayed loose. You could test both. I finished the installation, checked for leaks, and watched the furnace complete 2 full cycles. Then I wrote the invoice and drove straight to Nathan's bank branch. I didn't go inside. The account wasn't mine. I parked and called him. Return the $2,000. He was silent. How did you know already? That's your question? It was temporary. What was it for? An expense. Property preparation for what? I can explain tonight. Explain now. Kristen put down money for reports and paperwork. I was paying her back. From my account. It concerns your property. What reports? I don't have all the details. You transferred $2,000 without knowing the details. She said it would be returned if we don't move forward. Return it now. I'm working. So was I when the bank notified me. I'll do it tonight. Now, Nathan, he lowered his voice. I can't keep walking out every time you get upset. You found time to move it this morning. That took 2 minutes. Then returning it takes 2 minutes. He swore under his breath. I waited. A minute later, my bank sent another alert. $2,000 had been deposited. It's back, I said. Happy? No. What else do you want? The receipts. Kristen has them. Bring them tonight. He hung up. The transfer had worked in one sense. I had noticed it, challenged it, and recovered every dollar. It also removed any doubt about how Nathan viewed his authority. He no longer waited for an emergency. He used my account because Kristen told him an expense involved my property. I returned to Maple Street and checked my balance on the laptop. The money was there. I printed both transactions. Then I called the bank again and lowered my daily transfer limit. That wouldn't stop Nathan from acting in person, but it would stop another quick online move. The representative confirmed the change. A few minutes later, Nathan texted, "Did you change the transfer limit?" Yes. You could have told me. I read that twice. He still thought access entitled him to notice when I restricted it. At 7, I climbed the stairs to their apartment carrying my folder. Kristen had cleared the kitchen table. The mortgage folder sat in the center. Beside it was the certified power of attorney copy in its yellow envelope. The court form wasn't there. I had their copy. Nathan stood near the refrigerator. Kristen remained seated. You brought everything? I asked. Nathan nodded toward the table. Most of it. Receipts? Kristen slid 2 printed pages toward me. One was for a property market report. The other was a payment to Michelle Walker's brokerage. The descriptions were vague. Neither receipt identified a listing. What did Michelle do? I asked. She's advising us, Kristen said. About which house? Both. I looked at Nathan. He picked up the mortgage folder. Can we go in order? That would be new. Dad, please. He opened the folder and removed the conditional pre-approval letter. North Shore Community Bank was printed across the top. I read it standing up. The letter said their financing depended on one of 2 things. They needed a qualified co-signer or verified funds from the sale of my bungalow. My address was written in the condition, 418 Maple Street. I read the line again. Why is my property in your bank letter? Kristen folded her hands. Because it's the cleanest way to show where the money could come from. There is no money coming from it. Not while you insist on staying there. My staying there is what makes it my home. Nathan moved a chair out for me. Sit down. I'm fine standing. The bank asked how we planned to cover the gap, Kristen said. We gave them a possible source. You gave them my address. We didn't promise a sale. The letter says verified funds from the sale. Or a co-signer. I'm not doing that either. Nathan stared at the table. Kristen looked at him. You said he'd hear us out. I'm hearing you. No, you came ready to say no. I came ready to read. I held up the letter. This answers the question you both avoided. It's only conditional, Nathan said. Your condition is my signature or my house. He flinched. Kristen didn't. You've always said the bungalow was too large for one person. I've never said that. You said the garage is a pain. The garage door sticks. You complain about the stairs. There are 2. You complain about repairs. I repair things for a living. She pushed back from the table. Then what are we supposed to do? Buy a cheaper house. We've already signed. That was your choice. Nathan finally sat down. We have earnest money tied up. How much? He told me. It was enough to hurt them, but not enough to ruin them. When does the financing condition have to be satisfied? The final deadline hasn't started, he said. What starts it? Once the bank completes its review, Kristen cut in. We're close. I set the letter down. Where did they get the idea my bungalow might be sold? Neither answered. I pointed to the receipt. What did Michelle receive $2,000 for? Preparation, Kristen said. That word cost me $2,000 this morning. You got it back. After I found it, Nathan looked at her. You said it was for reports. It is. Show me the report, I said. Kristen opened her laptop. She found a file and turned the screen. It was a market analysis of houses near Maple Street. My bungalow appeared among the comparable properties, but there was no listing price for mine. Did Michelle enter my house? No, Kristen said. Did she take photographs? No. Did she prepare a listing agreement? Kristen closed the laptop. We're discussing financing first. That wasn't an answer. You don't get to interrogate me in my home. You put my home in your mortgage application. Nathan reached for the certified copy. I placed my hand over the yellow envelope first. He stopped. Give me this, I said. We agreed to talk, he replied. We talked. I still think I should keep it. Why? In case you make a decision out of anger. The room went quiet. I looked at him. What decision? Kristen answered. Something that hurts all of us. I slid the envelope toward myself. Nathan held the other end. For a moment, neither of us pulled. Then Kristen opened the court form packet on her laptop. She turned the screen so I could see my name. If you start making reckless financial choices, she said, we may have to ask whether you're still capable of managing everything alone. Nathan released the envelope. Kristen, stop. She looked at him. What? He should understand this affects more than him. I put the certified copy inside my folder. Nathan watched me do it, but he didn't object. That was the boundary I had come for. It should have ended his access. It didn't. A certified copy wasn't the authority itself. The original document remained active until I revoked it. Nathan could request another copy, and institutions that already had one could still rely on it. Kristen knew that too. She tapped the mortgage letter. We have deadlines now. I closed my folder, so do I. On the way home, I realized Michelle Walker had been paid to prepare something involving my address. The market report was only the page they were willing to show me. I needed to learn what was in her transaction file before Kristen decided my refusal was another sign of incompetence. I didn't call Michelle that night. If she had only prepared a market report, calling her would tell Kristen I was checking. If she had done more, I wanted to know what she believed before anyone corrected her story. I searched the brokerage website instead. Michelle's page showed that she had worked in Manitowoc for years. Her current listings appeared beneath her photograph. My bungalow wasn't among them. I searched my address on 3 property websites. Nothing was for sale. That gave me an answer, but only for that evening. I opened the firebox and took out the original power of attorney. This time, I read every section. The document was longer than I remembered. It covered banking, insurance, taxes, contracts, repairs, and real property. Under real property, Nathan could manage, lease, or sell on my behalf. I sat on the edge of the bed with the paper across my knees. During my shoulder surgery, that language had seemed practical. If a pipe burst while I was medicated, Nathan could hire someone. If I needed longer care, he could keep the bungalow running. I had never imagined him using it while I was standing on my own porch with a toolbox. The revocation section was near the end. I remembered it from the day I signed. I could end Nathan's authority in writing. For real property matters, the revocation needed to be recorded and delivered before others relying on his authority were expected to stop. I knew the basic rule. What I didn't know was whether taking back the certified copy had changed anything. The next morning, I called the office that had prepared the document. The woman who answered found my file. I need someone to explain what remains active, I said. She offered an appointment at 10:30. I had a commercial maintenance visit scheduled then. It paid well and usually led to more work. I moved it to the following week, though the building manager warned he might use another company. That was the first direct cost the situation put on my business. I drove downtown with the original in a document sleeve. A lawyer named Paul met with me for less than half an hour. He read the document, then asked whether I believed Nathan had acted outside my wishes. I know he moved money and changed account information, I said. I'm trying to determine whether he used it with a broker. Has he returned the certified copy? I have it. That doesn't end the authority. He uploaded scans. Those may still be in files. What if someone receives another certified copy? They may rely on it unless they have notice of revocation. So taking back the paper accomplished almost nothing. It accomplished control of that particular copy. That wasn't nothing, but it wasn't what I had believed at Nathan's table. I opened my folder and showed Paul the mortgage condition. Then I showed him the consultant form and both bank transfers. He didn't call Nathan a thief. He didn't call Kristen anything. He stayed with the document. Your son's authority includes real property transactions, he said. Could he sign a listing agreement? The language appears broad enough. Without asking me, he should act in your interest and within his duties. The practical problem is that an outside party may see this authority and believe he is permitted to act. How do I stop that? You revoke it, record the revocation, and deliver notice to anyone who may rely on it. I looked at the original. If I revoke it today, what happens to something he signed yesterday? That depends on what it was, when it was signed, and what the other party knew. I can't answer a transaction that may not exist. That was the useful answer. It was also the larger problem. I had been trying to recover a sheet of paper. The authority did not live in the sheet. It lived in the original instrument and in every place that it accepted a copy. I paid for the appointment. Between the fee and the service visit I had moved, the morning cost me several $100s. Paul offered to prepare a revocation. Not yet, I said. He looked at me over his glasses. May I ask why? I want to know whether it has already been used. You don't need evidence of misuse to revoke your own document. I understand. Then be careful about delay. I will. I knew how that sounded. If I distrusted Nathan enough to ask these questions, why leave him authorized for another hour? The answer wasn't sensible. I still wanted him to tell me the truth before I did something that declared I no longer trusted him. I left with a plain written checklist. Revoke, record, deliver notice. Retrieve known copies when possible. The office hadn't solved anything for me. It had removed my excuse for misunderstanding. Outside, I called Nathan. He answered with, "Are you still coming to look at the water heater?" What water heater? South 19th. The relief valve is dripping. You didn't mention it. I texted this morning. I checked my screen. His message sat beneath 2 missed calls from customers. I was in an appointment. What appointment? I had the power of attorney reviewed. He went silent. By who? The office that prepared it. Why would you do that? To understand what you can still do. I told you I won't touch anything. You told me that before moving $2,000. I returned it after I caught it. Kristen said those expenses were for your property. And that was enough for you? No. It was a mistake. Did you sign anything for Michelle? No. Did you upload or show her the power of attorney? No. Did Kristen? How would I know? You share an apartment. That doesn't mean I inspect her email. Ask her. She's at work. Then ask tonight. He let out a long breath. Are you coming to the rental or not? I looked at the original document sleeve on the passenger seat. I can tell you how to check the valve. I need you to look at it. I moved a paying job this morning. I can't lose the afternoon too. This is important. So was my appointment. Fine. What do I check? I explained how to shut off the power and where to place a bucket. I told him not to cap the relief pipe. Send me a picture after you dry everything, I said. You could just stop by. I could. My service rate is in the invoice from Saturday. He didn't say anything. I'm not refusing to help, I said. I'm refusing to keep pretending my work costs nothing. This isn't about work. It became about work when every conversation came with a repair. That's unfair. How many times have you called this month without needing something? I call you. You called about the furnace, the water heater, the mortgage, the document. We're busy. So am I. He spoke more quietly. Mom would have helped us. That one went exactly where he meant it to go. I looked through the windshield at the office across the street. Your mother would have asked me first. You don't know what she'd say. I knew her for 40 years, and she knew you. She knew how stubborn you get. I tightened my grip on the phone. Don't use her to make Kristen's argument. I'm not. You just did. He was quiet. Then he said, forget the water heater. Nathan, I'll call someone. That's your choice. Yeah, apparently everything is. He hung up. I stayed in the car until the dashboard clock changed twice. Nathan hadn't called me cruel. He hadn't threatened another form. He had used Ellen. That cost more than the appointment. I drove to my rescheduled service call anyway. The building manager had already hired someone else. He said he'd keep my number for next time. There was no next task to replace it that morning. I returned home before noon, which almost never happened on a weekday. The kitchen was clean. The wooden tray held one envelope from the electric company. The house had the same quiet it carried after Ellen died. I made a sandwich and stood at the counter while I ate it. For years, Nathan's calls had filled that quiet. I had told myself he needed my judgment. Most times he needed my tools, my account, or my checkbook. I had helped create that. Every time I paid without discussing repayment, I taught him that asking was enough. Every time I fixed something, instead of sitting down for coffee, I taught both of us that work counted as closeness. Now, I wanted respect from an arrangement I had built around usefulness. That didn't excuse Nathan. It didn't excuse Kristen. It did explain why I had waited so long to say no. My phone rang. It was Nathan. I answered. The plumber says the valve needs replacement, he said. That's probably right. He can do it tomorrow. Good. Another silence. It's going to cost $480. That sounds normal. I wasn't asking you to pay. All right. I just wanted you to know. Thank you for telling me. He didn't hang up. I waited. Did the lawyer say I did something illegal? He asked. He explained the document. That isn't what I asked. I didn't ask him to judge you. Do you think I stole from you? I think you moved money because Kristen told you to. I made a mistake. You made several. I'm trying to keep my marriage together, and you thought the easiest way was giving her access to me. I didn't give her access. You gave her my account information. You signed her consultant form. You let my address enter your mortgage condition. I'm caught in the middle. No, you're standing beside your wife. I'm the one you placed in the middle. He breathed through his nose. What do you want me to do? Leave her? No. Then what? Own your decisions. That's easy for you to say. It isn't. I'm owning mine now. He waited. I looked at Ellen's empty chair. I'm not paying for the plumber, I said. I know. I'm not doing free repairs at your rentals. Fine. I'm not co-signing your mortgage. You already said that. And I'm not selling my house to satisfy the bank. His voice changed. No one has asked you to sign anything. Then there should be no problem. There is a problem. We could lose the house. That isn't my objective anymore. What does that mean? It means I'm done trying to help you close the gap in a way I can tolerate. I'm making sure neither of you uses my name, money, or property without a direct yes. He was silent long enough that I checked the screen. I need some space, he said. All right. Don't come by the apartment. I won't. Don't go to the rentals. I won't. He sounded surprised that I agreed. I'll call you, he said. Call without a task. He disconnected. The quiet returned. I washed my plate and put it in the rack. Then I opened the account folder and removed Nathan's rental addresses from my service list. That hurt in a plain, physical way. My handwriting had been beside those addresses for years. I drew one line through each. After that, I called the electric company, insurance agency, water department, and bank again. I requested written histories of every contact made under Nathan's authority. The bank could provide its record within 3 business days. The insurance agency sent theirs immediately. The utilities said they would mail copies to Maple Street. I created a new folder labeled Authority Use. Then I wrote Michelle Walker's name on the first page. My phone buzzed. Kristen had sent a message. Since you involved a lawyer, all communication about the house should be in writing. I answered carefully. Which house? 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. She never replied. An hour later, an automated email arrived from a property website. I had created an alert for my address that morning. The message said activity had been detected for 418 Maple Street. When I opened it, there was still no public listing. Only a line stating that property information had recently been updated by a real estate professional. Michelle had touched my address. I printed the page, placed it in the new folder, and set myself a different task. I no longer needed Nathan to admit what Kristen wanted. I needed to identify the first moment their plan crossed from discussion into action. The first moment I could prove came the next morning. My bank called at 9:20. The employee asked whether I had authorized Nathan to request a balance verification letter from my household account. No, I said. He presented a power of attorney copy. What did he say the letter was for? A mortgage application. His mortgage? That appears to be the case. Did you give it to him? No, your account note requires us to contact you first. The note had worked. For the first time, one of Nathan's attempts stopped before information left my control. Please deny the request, I said. I can do that. Send me written confirmation. She placed me on hold, then returned and verified my email address. The confirmation arrived while we were still talking. It included the branch location, time, request type, and Nathan's name. Has he made similar requests? I asked. Not with us. Does the copy stay in your file? We have an image of the document from today. Mark it disputed. We can note that you denied this request. Do that. I thanked her and printed the email. Nathan called before the printer stopped. What did you tell the bank? No. What? That's what I told them. I only needed a balance letter. You only needed my private account balance for your mortgage. It wasn't going to move money. You didn't ask. I knew what you'd say. That isn't permission. The bank condition needs proof that there's support available. There isn't. You have the money. My having it doesn't make it available. He lowered his voice. I'm standing outside the branch. Then get in your truck and go to work. Can you please listen for 1 minute? I listened for 5 years. This isn't fair. I opened my folder. Did you use the same copy I took from your apartment? No. Where did you get another one? He hesitated. I had a scan certified. That didn't sound right. A printout of a scan isn't a certified copy. The bank accepted it for review. Where was the scan stored? In my email. Delete it. I can't delete every document just because you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm giving you a direct instruction. You don't get to order me around. You're acting under my authority. He stopped. That distinction mattered. When Nathan used the document, he wasn't doing me a favor between father and son. He was claiming permission to act for me. If he wanted that power, he couldn't also pretend my instructions were interference. You're right, he said finally. Delete it. I need to talk to Kristen. No. You need to stop representing me. She's my wife, and I'm the person named on the document. He breathed out. I'll call you later. I don't need a later explanation. What do you need? Written confirmation that the scan is deleted and no other copies remain in your control. That sounds like something a lawyer wrote. It sounds like something I wrote. You don't trust me at all? I trusted you with a document for 5 years. Yesterday you said you needed space. Today you went to my bank. The deadline is getting closer. What deadline? The review could finish any day. That's yours. If we fail this condition, we could lose the house and the earnest money. I understand. Do you? Yes. He waited for me to soften the answer. I didn't. I have to go, he said. I put the bank confirmation in my authority use folder. Then I wrote an email to Nathan and Kristen. I kept it short. I do not consent to co-signing your mortgage. I do not consent to selling, listing, valuing, pledging, or using 418 Maple Street for your financing. I do not consent to any request for my bank balance or funds. Do not use the power of attorney for these purposes. I read it twice before sending. That email did not revoke Nathan's authority. I understood that. It did remove any chance for him to say he thought I had agreed. Nathan replied 20 minutes later. Received. Kristen replied an hour after that. Your refusal has been noted. The wording sounded like she was building her own folder. That was fine. I was done trying to control what she thought of me. I called my afternoon customers and confirmed every appointment. Then I stopped at a hardware store. I bought a small motion camera for the front porch, a second one for the driveway, and new batteries for the garage keypad. At home, I mounted the porch camera beneath the light. It faced the steps and front walk. The driveway camera went inside the garage window. I wasn't trying to turn the bungalow into a fortress. I wanted a record of who came to the property while I was working. I changed the garage keypad code. Nathan had known the old one from years of borrowing tools. Then I walked through the house with my phone. I photographed every room. I opened closets and cabinets. I photographed the furnace, water heater, electrical panel, and basement walls. The bungalow wasn't perfect. The kitchen floor had a worn spot near the sink. One bedroom still had Ellen's sewing cabinet against the wall. The garage roof would need shingles within a year or two. It was also maintained, clean, and fully occupied by me. I saved the pictures in a dated folder. The work took most of the evening. At 8, a notification appeared on my phone. Motion detected at front door. I opened the camera feed. Nathan stood on the porch holding a white envelope. He looked at the new camera, then directly into it. For a second, I thought he might knock. He pushed the envelope through the mail slot and left. Inside was a signed statement saying he had deleted the scan from his email and cloud storage. He also stated that he had not retained another copy. He had done what I asked. I read the statement twice, then filed it. That was a real gain. Nathan had finally acknowledged a direct instruction and followed it. The cost appeared the next morning. My phone rang while I was replacing a thermostat at a restaurant. Kristen didn't say hello. You installed cameras. Yes, you recorded Nathan. He came to my front door without telling him. The camera is visible. That isn't the point. What is? You're treating us like criminals. I'm recording my property because you think we're sneaking around. I think a professional updated my property information without my knowledge. She went quiet. I set my screwdriver on the counter. Did you know about that? I don't know what you're talking about. A real estate professional updated information connected to my address. Property information is public. That wasn't my question. You've already decided what you believe. I've decided to watch my own door. Her voice became controlled. Cameras, secret folders, bank restrictions, a lawyer. Do you hear yourself? Yes. This is not normal behavior. Neither is putting my address in your mortgage condition. We were trying to include you in a family plan. You included my house before you included me. The restaurant manager came through the kitchen. I turned away and lowered my voice. I'm working. Of course you are. What does that mean? It means you hide in work whenever anyone asks you to face reality. I looked at the thermostat in my hand. I'll call when I'm finished. Don't bother. She disconnected. I completed the job and tested the heating controls. When I returned to my van, there was a message from Nathan. Please take down the cameras. Kristen thinks they prove you're becoming paranoid. I answered. They prove who visits my property. He didn't reply. That afternoon, the driveway camera proved its value. I was at a service call near the harbor when my phone alerted. Kristen's car had pulled into my driveway. She got out first. Michelle Walker stepped out of the passenger side carrying a tablet and a tape measure. I stood beside a boiler and watched them on the small screen. Kristen pointed toward the roof. Michelle walked along the driveway, studying the brick and foundation. She measured the width of the garage door. They didn't knock. They didn't try to enter. Michelle took several photographs of the exterior. Then she stood near the front walk while Kristen spoke with both hands moving. The porch camera recorded audio when they came closer. "He's making this difficult," Kristen said. Michelle lowered her voice. "I need clean authority in the file." "You have it. I have Nathan's document. He's the agent. I understand. I'm saying the paperwork must match what we do. It will." Michelle looked at the porch camera. "Is that new?" Kristen turned toward it. For 2 seconds, she stared directly at me through the lens. Then she smiled. Not a pleasant smile. Not an angry one either. It was the look she used when someone had confirmed what she already planned to say about them. "We should go," Michelle said. They returned to the car. I saved both video clips before the notification disappeared. The strategy had worked. I now knew Michelle was involved beyond a market report. I knew she had Nathan's power of attorney document in her file. I knew she was concerned about whether the authority matched the work. I still didn't know what Nathan had signed. Michelle had not spoken to me. As far as she knew, Nathan was acting with permission. That mattered. I finished the boiler repair, then drove past Michelle's office without stopping. Kristen's car wasn't there. At home, I copied the camera videos onto a flash drive. I printed still frames showing the date and time. Then I checked my address online again. No active listing. I checked the mortgage folder copy I had photographed. The bank review remained pending. Nothing public had happened yet. My email chimed. Kristen had sent Nathan and me a calendar invitation. The subject line said, "Family Capacity Meeting." The location was my bungalow. The invited guests were Nathan, Kristen, and Michelle Walker. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday at 10 in the morning. A note beneath it said they intended to discuss housing, financial support, and next steps in a calm setting. It also said refusal to participate would be documented. I declined the invitation. Then I sent one sentence to all three. "No meeting is authorized at my home." Michelle accepted my decline less than a minute later. Kristen sent a new invitation. This one was scheduled at Nathan's apartment. Michelle was no longer included. The subject line remained the same. I declined again. Nathan called that evening. "Why won't you meet with us?" "Because you aren't discussing my capacity." Kristen used the wrong words. She typed them. "She wants to resolve this. She wants an answer she can use. We need an answer soon. You have one in writing." He was quiet. Then he said, "If you keep refusing to participate, she's going to file the petition. Will you sign it?" "I don't know. That means you might. It means I'm tired. So am I. She says the cameras show you're suspicious of everyone. The cameras showed her bringing a broker to my driveway." He stopped breathing for a second. "You saw that?" "Yes." "What did you hear?" "Enough." "Dad, listen to me. I'm listening. Don't contact Michelle." "Why?" "Because Kristen says everything is almost ready, and if you interfere now, the bank could pull the file." I wrote his words in my notebook. "What is almost ready?" He didn't answer. "Nathan, I can't do this tonight." He hung up. 20 minutes later, the property website sent another automated alert. A status change had been submitted for 418 Maple Street. It was waiting for publication. The new cameras had given Kristen a target, but my written refusal had given her a deadline. Whatever she and Nathan were preparing was now moving faster. The next morning, someone knocked while I was tying my boots. A man in a brown jacket asked my name. When I confirmed it, he handed me an envelope and left. The return address was the Manitowoc County Courthouse. I opened it at the kitchen table. Kristen had filed the petition. Nathan had signed it. The filing asked the court to review whether I remained competent to manage my property and finances. It did not make Kristen or Nathan my guardian. It did not freeze my accounts. It set a hearing date and required me to respond. The attached statement carried Nathan's signature. He described the late gas payment, my refusal to accept family help, the cameras, the bank restrictions, and what he called sudden suspicion toward trusted relatives. He also mentioned the $2,000 transfer. He wrote that I had reacted aggressively to an ordinary reimbursement. There was no mention that I hadn't authorized it. No mention that he returned it after I called. No mention that the consultant form had been corrected. Kristen's attachment was longer. She described me as isolated since Ellen's death. She said I worked beyond my physical limits, became defensive when questioned, and placed my property at risk by refusing reasonable planning. Then she described my email. My written refusal to sell, list, pledge, or use the bungalow was presented as evidence that I had become rigid and unable to consider alternatives. The boundary had given her a target, just as Nathan warned. I called Paul's office. He had an opening at 11. "I've been served," I said when I sat down. He read the petition without interrupting. Then he read the corrected consultant form, the bank records, and my written instructions. Do I lose control while this is pending? I asked. Not from this filing alone. Can Nathan keep using the power of attorney? Yes, unless you revoke it. Can they use this petition to stop the revocation? They can argue whatever they choose. Right now, there is no order restricting you. Then I want to respond. Paul named a retainer. It was more money than I wanted to spend. I wrote the check. That was another service call canceled, several weeks of groceries, and part of the garage roof fund. Nathan and Kristen had turned a family dispute into something I had to pay a professional to answer. Paul made copies of my records. You have useful documentation, he said. I have a maintained house and a working business too. We'll document those. I'm not asking the court to approve my life. I understand. Do you? He set down his pen. You're right. You shouldn't have to treat ordinary independence like a performance. But someone filed a petition. We answer what was filed. I nodded. That was the cost. Once Kristen placed my capacity on a court form, being right at my kitchen table wasn't enough. I had to spend money and time showing strangers things Nathan already knew. Before I left, Paul asked again about revocation. Do you want me to prepare it? Yes. Do you want to sign today? Prepare it first. He studied me for a moment. You're still hoping your son steps back? I'm giving myself until tomorrow morning. Why tomorrow? Because if I do this, their bank condition fails. That may be true. I want one night where I know I didn't act only because I was angry. Paul didn't argue. He said the revocation would be ready by 4. Outside, I called Nathan. He rejected the first call. He answered the second. What? He said. I received the petition. I didn't want it served at your house. That isn't the problem. Kristen said formal service was required. Why did you sign? He was silent. You told me you wouldn't. I said I didn't think you were incompetent. Your signature is under a statement asking a court to consider it. I'm worried about how you're acting. Since when? Since you started tracking everything. Everything I tracked happened. You hired a lawyer. After you used my money, you installed cameras. After a broker touched my property information, you blocked the bank letter. Because I didn't authorize it. He raised his voice. Every answer is a document with you now. Because your words keep changing. That's not fair. Did you read Kristen's attachment before signing? Yes. Did you see the part where she called my refusal to sell evidence against me? She didn't say it like that. I'm looking at it. She said, you won't consider reasonable options. Reasonable for who? He didn't answer. I could hear traffic behind him. Withdraw it, I said. I can't do that alone. You can withdraw your statement. Then Kristen files without me. That would be her decision. She's my wife. You keep saying that like it erases your name. You want me to choose. You already did. His voice dropped. If we lose the new house, she may leave. I sat in my van with the courthouse envelope on the passenger seat. Did she say that? Not exactly. Then what did she say? That she can't stay in a marriage where I never stand up for our future. And standing up means using mine. She thinks you'll be safer in a condo. No. She thinks my equity will be useful in her mortgage. She isn't some monster. I didn't call her one. You talk like she's plotting against you. She filed a competency petition after I refused financing. She filed because you won't meet. I met with both of you. You came in with demands. I came for my document. He went quiet. I looked through the windshield at people entering the courthouse. Most carried folders. Did you give Michelle another copy of the power of attorney? No. Did you sign anything for her? He took too long. Nathan, I signed a service agreement. What service? Property preparation. For Maple Street? It doesn't mean the house is being sold. What does it mean? She can prepare materials. Did you authorize a listing? Kristen handled the details. Your name is on the agreement. I signed what Michelle sent. Did you read it? Most of it. I closed my eyes. Send it to me. I can't. Why? Kristen has the account login. You signed it electronically. Yes. Then the completed copy went to your email. I deleted the scan like you asked. I asked you to delete the power of attorney. I deleted everything in the folder. That might have been true. It also meant he had removed his own access to documents carrying his signature. What did Michelle call the agreement? I don't remember. You remember. He didn't answer. Withdraw the petition and tell Michelle to stop, I said. I need to talk to Kristen. No, you need to decide. You said you weren't making me choose. I said you already had. He hung up. At 4:10, Paul emailed a draft revocation. I read it at my desk. It identified the original document, ended Nathan's authority, and directed anyone receiving notice to stop relying on previous copies. There was space for my signature and the date. I printed it, but didn't sign. Then I drove to my last service call. The customer had heard I might be reducing my schedule. "Who told you that?" I asked. He looked embarrassed. "Someone mentioned your family was helping you wind things down." "My family? I don't remember who said it. Was it a woman?" He nodded. I didn't ask him to describe her. "I'm not winding down," I said. "All right, I'll tell you when I retire." He smiled uncertainly. I repaired his furnace, but the conversation had changed. He watched me climb the basement steps. He offered to carry my toolbox. I let him. Not because I needed help, because refusing would have made the moment stranger. That was the reputational cost I hadn't expected. Kristen's version of me no longer stayed inside their apartment or a court file. It had reached someone who hired me. When I finished, I sat in the van and wrote down the customer's words. Then I checked the property alert. The status submission was still pending. I drove home by way of the lake. I wanted 10 quiet minutes before deciding whether to sign the revocation. My phone rang twice. The first call was Nathan. I let it go. The second was Kristen. I let that go too. Nathan left a voicemail. "Dad, don't do anything tonight. We can still fix this. Just give me until Sunday." Sunday. He had finally named a day. I turned onto Maple Street. A white post stood in my front yard. A rectangular sign hung beneath it. For sale. Michelle Walker's name and photograph appeared across the bottom. I pulled into the driveway and stopped. An electronic lockbox was attached to my front doorknob. I didn't get out right away. My porch camera had been turned sideways. It now faced the brick wall. The driveway camera had recorded the installation. I opened the clip. Michelle arrived with Nathan. He carried the signpost. She carried the lockbox. Nathan entered a code into his phone and showed Michelle the screen. Then he used a key to open my front door, a key I hadn't known he still had. They remained inside for 38 minutes. When they came out, Michelle attached the lockbox. Nathan turned the porch camera toward the wall. Kristen arrived near the end. She stood beside the sign while Michelle photographed it. The listing had not merely been prepared, it was active. I stepped out of the van and walked to the front door. The lockbox was solid. I didn't touch it. A printed card hung from the post. Public open house Sunday, 10 in the morning. My own key still opened the door. Inside, the kitchen chairs had been moved. The counters were cleared. Ellen's coffee tin was missing from its usual place. I found it in a lower cabinet beside the cleaning supplies. That small change settled the question for me. Nathan hadn't misunderstood a form. Kristen hadn't only gathered options. They had entered my home, staged it, and offered it to strangers after I said no in writing. I took the printed revocation from my folder and placed it on the kitchen table. If I signed and recorded it, Nathan would lose every remaining piece of authority. Michelle would have to stop once she received notice. The bank would lose the support attached to Maple Street. Nathan and Kristen would likely lose the new house. The petition would become harsher. Nathan might not speak to me again. I set my pen beside the signature line. Then I called Paul's office and left a message. I found the listing. I'll be there when you open. Prepare it for recording. I hung up, turned the porch camera back toward the walk, and signed my name. Paul called at 7:40 the next morning. "Bring the original and your identification," he said. "I'll be there at 8. Before leaving, I checked the listing online. It had published overnight. The page showed my kitchen, living room, basement, both bedrooms, and garage. Ellen's sewing cabinet appeared in one photograph. Her coffee tin had been moved because Kristen thought it cluttered the counter. The description called the bungalow well-maintained and ready for its next owner. The open house was advertised for Sunday morning. I printed the page, then I opened the transaction history. It showed the listing had become active the previous afternoon, hours before I found the sign. Nathan and Kristen had known I would receive the property alert. They hadn't expected it to stop them. They expected the deadline to force me into agreement. At Paul's office, we placed the original beside the signed revocation. He compared the dates, names, and recording information. "This ends all authority under the document," he said. "Not just authority concerning the bungalow. I understand. Once notice is delivered, Nathan can't use it for your banking, insurance, taxes, or property. I understand. If you become ill next month, he won't automatically step back into the role. I know. That was the permanent part. I wasn't withdrawing one favor from one mortgage. I was ending the arrangement created before my surgery. If I ever needed help again, I would have to make a new decision. Nathan would have no standing just because he was my son. Paul notarized my signature. Then we drove separately to the Register of Deeds office. The clerk checked the original recording reference. She reviewed the revocation, collected the fee, and stamped the filing time. That was all. There was no speech, no hearing. No one asked whether Nathan deserved it. The clerk entered the document because I had the right to revoke my own authority. She handed me a receipt bearing the recording number. "Keep this with your records," she said. "I will." I folded it once and placed it in my work jacket pocket. Paul waited beside the counter. "From this point forward, delivery matters," he said. "I need the bank and the brokerage." "Yes." Could Michelle rely on the old document before she receives notice? That's the uncertainty we remove next. Can I require her to cancel? You can notify her that Nathan's authority has ended and that you do not consent to the listing. She'll have to respond according to her obligations. She already has my written refusal. Did you send it to her? She was included on the meeting email, but my refusal about the listing went only to Nathan and Kristen. Then don't assume she knows. That kept Michelle in a different position. She had stood in my driveway. She had photographed my rooms. She had accepted Nathan's document, but I had no proof Kristen told her I refused. The camera audio suggested Michelle cared about clean authority. That didn't excuse listing a home without speaking to its owner. It did mean I wasn't going to treat her like another family member who knew every conversation. Paul prepared 2 notice packets. One was addressed to North Shore Community Bank. The other was addressed to Michelle at her brokerage. Each contained the recorded revocation information and my written statement that I had not authorized the sale or use of the bungalow for Nathan's financing. "You can deliver both today," Paul said. "If I give Michelle hers now, she'll cancel before Sunday. That is likely. I want her to receive it while Nathan and Kristen are present." Paul studied me. "Why?" "Because Nathan will tell her this is a family misunderstanding. Kristen will say I agreed and change my mind. I want to answer in the same room. You could still answer by email. I could. Are you trying to embarrass them?" The question irritated me because it was fair. I looked at the brokerage envelope. They planned an open house at my home because they believed I wouldn't object in front of strangers. That doesn't answer me. No. I don't need strangers to shame them. I need Michelle to hear my refusal directly and verify the recording before anyone enters. Then keep it limited. I will. Paul mentioned other options. I could complain to Michelle's licensing board. I could demand compensation for entry into the bungalow. I could pursue the transfer and the false statements in the petition. I said no to all of that for the moment. The revocation was enough. I didn't want Nathan fired, charged, or ruined. I didn't want Kristen publicly branded as anything. I wanted my house removed from their plan. One lever, one result. I took the bank notice to North Shore. A mortgage manager met me in a small office. I showed my identification, the conditional pre-approval letter, and the recorded receipt. "I'm not asking for details about Nathan's application," I said. "I'm notifying the bank that he no longer has authority to act for me." She reviewed the recording number on the county system. The screen took a few seconds to load. Then she turned it slightly toward me. The revocation appeared with that morning's filing time. That removed the last uncertainty. It was recorded and visible. She printed a verification page for the bank's file. "We'll mark your property and accounts as unavailable for support," she said. "I have no accounts here. I understand. Your address appears in the mortgage condition. Will Nathan be notified today?" I can't discuss the borrower communication schedule. I don't want information about his application. I'm asking whether this notice stays private until the bank acts. We will handle the application under our normal process. That was as much as she could say. I handed her my written statement. She stamped a copy received and returned it to me. As I stood, she said, "The condition still allows another qualified source, a co-signer. She didn't confirm it, but I had the letter. If someone asks me," I said, "the answer is no." She nodded. I left the bank notice in her hands. The brokerage notice remained sealed in my folder. At home, I removed the sale sign from the yard. I considered cutting the lockbox from the doorknob. Instead, I photographed it and left it in place. Removing it might let Kristen claim I had damaged brokerage property. More importantly, The recorded revocation had already made the box useless for a lawful showing once Michelle received notice. I carried the sign into the garage and leaned it against the wall. 20 minutes later, Kristen called. "Where is the sign?" "In my garage. You had no right to remove it. It was in my yard. It's brokerage property. It's undamaged. You're interfering with a contract." "I didn't sign a contract. Nathan did. That isn't the same thing. He was authorized." "Was." She stopped. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. "Rodney, what did you do?" "I removed a sign from my yard. Did you contact the bank?" That question told me the notice had reached the file. "I delivered information concerning my property. You're going to cost us everything." "No, I'm refusing to provide it." "Do you know what Nathan has put into this?" "Yes." "No, you don't. He's barely sleeping. Then he should stop." "We can't stop. The bank issued the final condition this morning." "How long?" She caught herself. "That isn't your business. Then neither is my bank balance. You're enjoying this." I looked at the sale sign through the open garage door. "No, I don't believe you." "That doesn't change the answer." She hung up. Nathan called 5 minutes later. "Did you revoke it?" His voice sounded flat. "Yes?" "You could have told me." "I told you not to use it." "That's not the same as ending it." "No, it isn't." He breathed into the phone. "The bank gave us 48 hours. To do what? You know what? I want you to say it. Get a qualified co-signer or prove funds from the sale." "Whose sale?" He didn't answer. "You used my address, Nathan. I thought you'd help once you saw how far along we were. Once backing out became expensive. I didn't think you'd let us lose the earnest money, so you knew I hadn't agreed." "Yes." The word came quietly. It was the first full admission. I sat down at the kitchen table. "Did you know Kristen listed the bungalow?" "Yes." "Before you signed?" "Yes." "Did you think I wanted it sold?" "No." "Then why?" He sounded close to tears, though none came. "Because she said if we got everything ready, you'd choose us over the house." I looked toward the hallway. The house wasn't listening. It was brick, wood, pipes, and old wiring. Nathan was the one who had turned it into a test. I shouldn't have to give up my home to prove I choose my son. I know that now. You knew it before. He didn't answer. "Withdraw the listing," I said. "Kristen won't. You signed it. Michelle controls the file. Then tell Michelle the authority is revoked." "Have you told her?" "Not yet." "Why not? I'll tell her directly." "When?" He knew. "Sunday." "Dad, please don't do this at the open house. Cancel it first. We still have until Sunday afternoon to find a co-signer." "Yes, not me. Just come Sunday. We can talk before anyone arrives. You had weeks to talk. I'm asking now for a signature." He stayed quiet. There was the direct request, finally, not a hint, not a consultant, not a pamphlet. He wanted me to co-sign. "No," I said. "If you say no to the bank, the file closes." "I understand. Kristen will never forgive you. This isn't Kristen's authority anymore." "What about me?" I looked at his signed statement in the court petition. "What are you asking?" "Whether you care what happens to us." "I care. The answer is still no." He ended the call. That evening I returned the original power of attorney to the firebox. I kept the recorded receipt in my jacket. Then I poured 1 glass of bourbon. I carried it to the kitchen table and sat in Ellen's chair, something I almost never did. Her coffee tin was back on the counter. The sale sign remained in the garage. The lockbox still hung outside. I drank the bourbon slowly. I could have canceled the open house with 1 phone call. I could have sent Michelle the notice that night and avoided seeing Nathan ask again. But Nathan had built his plan around my silence in public. He believed I would protect him from embarrassment even after he used my authority against me. On Sunday, I would answer him where he had chosen to ask. Saturday passed without a visit. Nathan sent 1 message after dinner. 10 tomorrow. Please come alone. Bring identification. I replied, I'll be there. Before bed, I placed the brokerage notice, the recorded verification page, and the conditional pre-approval letter inside my folder. Then, I hung my work jacket by the kitchen door, with the receipt still folded in its pocket. At 9 Sunday morning, I left the bungalow through the back door. I wanted Michelle to conduct whatever setup Nathan had authorized without seeing me inside. If I remained in the kitchen, Kristen would turn the first disagreement into a private family argument. I drove to a coffee shop near the river and ordered eggs. I barely touched them. At 9:45, the porch camera alerted. Michelle opened the front door, using a key from the lockbox. She carried a stack of property sheets and a box of blue shoe covers. Kristen followed with a tray of bottled water. Nathan entered last. He stood in my living room and looked toward the hallway. "He's not here," Kristen said. "He said he'd come," Nathan replied. "He will." Michelle placed the property sheets on the kitchen counter. "I need to be clear," she said. "If Rodney objects, no one enters until I confirm authority." "He won't object once Nathan explains," Kristen said. "I'm not asking what you expect. I'm telling you what I'll do." Nathan walked to the front window. "He knows the bank deadline." Michelle glanced at him. "Does he know the property is listed?" Neither answered. That was the first time I heard Michelle ask the right question. Kristen straightened the stack of property sheets. "He knows we're trying to sell." That wasn't what I asked. He removed the sign. Michelle looked toward the empty post hole in the lawn. "You didn't tell me that. We put it back this morning." The camera view didn't reach the far edge of the yard. I had missed that part. Michelle picked up her tablet. "I'm calling the office." Nathan stopped her. "Wait. He'll be here in a few minutes. If he refuses, I'm canceling." "He won't," Kristen said. She sounded completely certain. By 9:55, 3 cars had parked along Maple Street. A young couple waited near the sidewalk. A man in a navy cap studied the roof. 2 women stood beside a small white car, reading the property sheet Michelle had placed outside. I paid for breakfast and drove home. When I turned onto Maple Street, I saw the sale sign again. People were gathered in front of the bungalow. The young couple had already pulled blue covers over their shoes. Nathan stood beside my front door holding the mortgage folder. Kristen was next to him. Michelle had one hand on the electronic lockbox. Nathan saw me coming. "Dad," he said, "we need to talk before everybody goes in." I stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. "Go ahead, maybe inside." "No, you invited everyone here." Kristen came down 1 step. "Can we please keep this calm? I'm calm." She looked toward the waiting buyers. "This doesn't concern them. They're waiting to enter my house." Michelle removed her hand from the lockbox. "Mr. Hansen, I'm Michelle Walker. I know, I need to verify whether Nathan is authorized to proceed with today's showing. I'll answer that." Nathan lifted the folder. "The bank needs one more thing from us." "What thing?" He looked at Kristen. She nodded. Nathan opened the folder and removed a pen. "We need you to co-sign." There it was, said clearly in front of the person handling my listing. I looked at Nathan. "No." He kept the pen in his hand. "Dad, listen first." I listened. "The bank gave us 2 options. I read the letter. If you co-sign, we don't need anything from Maple Street. Then cancel the listing." "We will," Kristen said, "as soon as the bank accepts you." Michelle turned toward her. "That is not how this was explained to me." Kristen kept her eyes on me. "It's the quickest solution." Nathan held the pen out. "You wouldn't have to make a payment. Our rentals cover the mortgage. Your bank doesn't agree. It's a technical condition. It's a debt. We can handle it, then handle it without my signature." His arm dropped slightly. Kristen stepped between us. "Rodney, you said family should ask directly. We're asking. You are. We're not hinting. We're not sending pamphlets. We're asking you to help your son. I heard you. And no." The man in the navy cap stopped studying the roof. He looked toward the street, pretending not to listen. Kristen lowered her voice. "If we miss this deadline, we lose the house. That was possible when you signed the offer. You could prevent it. I could take the risk for you. You've taken risks for Nathan before, not after he used my authority against me." Nathan put the pen inside the folder. I returned the money. "This isn't about $2,000. Then what is it about?" "Consent." He looked at me for a long moment. "I thought you'd agree once everything was ready. You thought I'd be too embarrassed to refuse." "No." "Then why ask here?" "Because you wouldn't meet with us. I met with you at your table. You came for the document you used to list my home." Michelle raised one hand. "I need to clarify something." Kristen turned toward her. "This is a family disagreement." "No. This is now a brokerage issue." She looked at Nathan. "When you signed the electronic listing agreement, you represented that you were acting under valid authority for Rodney." "I was." "Did Rodney tell you he wanted the property listed?" Nathan looked down. "Nathan?" Michelle said. He knew we were discussing it. "That isn't my question." Kristen answered for him. The power of attorney gave him authority. Michelle's voice remained even. "Authority carries duties." I asked whether Rodney consented. He didn't have to, Kristen said. I watched Michelle's expression change. She had believed Nathan was handling a willing owner's transaction. She was beginning to understand why my name had never appeared in her conversations. Nathan stared at the mortgage folder. I thought he would consent today, he said. Michelle closed her tablet cover. Then why did you tell me the property was approved for listing? Kristen said the timing was tight. I'm asking you. He finally looked at her. Because we needed the listing active for the bank. That changed her belief. She stepped away from the lockbox. The young couple on the walkway looked at each other. One of them began removing the blue covers. Kristen pointed toward my jacket. He's trying to sabotage us. We filed a petition because his behavior has become irrational. Michelle looked at me. Is there a court order limiting your control of the property? No. Has any court suspended the power of attorney? No. Kristen folded her arms. The hearing hasn't happened yet. I took the recorded receipt from my work jacket pocket. It won't need to suspend anything. Nathan saw the paper. His face went pale. I handed Michelle the brokerage notice. This is written notice that I revoked Nathan's authority on Friday. It was recorded with the county that morning. I do not consent to this listing or the open house. She opened the envelope and read the first page. Then she looked at the receipt. I need to verify the recording. That's why I brought it. She turned on her tablet and entered the recording number. Kristen came closer. This is exactly the kind of reckless decision we described. Michelle stepped away from her. Please give me room. Nathan didn't move. He knew what the revocation meant. The certified copy, the scan, and the agreement no longer gave him power to keep marketing the bungalow after notice. Michelle found the county record. She compared my identification to the document. Then she checked the timestamp. It was recorded Friday at 8:47, she said. Yes. Did you deliver notice to the brokerage before now? No, I'm delivering it now. She nodded. Notice received. Kristen reached for Nathan's arm. Tell her we have a signed agreement. Michelle looked at Nathan. The agreement was signed by an agent whose authority has now been revoked. The principal is present and refusing consent. I cannot proceed. He revoked it after Nathan signed, Kristen said. I understand the timing. Then the listing was valid. I'm not going to debate past validity on the front lawn. I have current verified notice. The owner has refused the showing. The open house is canceled. She said the last sentence loudly enough for the waiting buyers to hear. The man in the navy cap walked toward his car. One of the women folded her property sheet. The young couple removed their shoe covers and placed them in the box. Kristen stared at Michelle. You can't do this. I have to. We paid you. I'll address the account through the brokerage. We have a bank deadline. That is separate from my duty here. Michelle opened the listing application on her tablet. I watched her change the property status. She selected canceled. A confirmation box appeared. She turned the screen toward me. 418 Maple Street is no longer active. The property website on my phone updated less than a minute later. Listing canceled. That was the decisive change. Not an argument, not the petition, not the camera videos. She walked to the sidewalk. I'm sorry, she told the remaining visitors. The seller has not authorized today's open house. The property is no longer available. A woman asked whether it might return to the market. No, I said. Michelle glanced at me, then repeated it. No, it will not. The last visitors left. Michelle removed the property sheets from the box. She picked up the unused shoe covers and carried them inside. Kristen stood on the porch with both hands pressed against her temples. You did this in front of everyone, she said. You scheduled everyone. You waited until today. I told you no in writing. You could have called Michelle Friday. I gave her verified notice before anyone entered. You wanted us humiliated. I wanted no confusion. There's no difference. There is to Michelle. Nathan looked toward the empty sidewalk. You knew the bank deadline would still be running. Yes. You knew I'd ask you to co-sign. You told me to bring identification. He shut the mortgage folder. I thought if I asked directly, you might do it. I told you no on Friday. I thought seeing us here would change your mind. That was your mistake. Michelle came back outside carrying the electronic lockbox. She had removed it from my front door. I'll retrieve the sign, she said. It's in the yard, Kristen replied. I see it. Michelle pulled the post from the grass. Nathan started to help, but she said she had it. Then she handed him a printed cancellation confirmation. This ends marketing activity. The brokerage will contact you regarding the transaction file. Kristen took the paper. We're going to challenge this. That is your choice. Michelle looked at me. Mr. Hansen, I've documented your notice and refusal. I'll send confirmation to your email. Thank you. She loaded the sign, lockbox, and supplies into her vehicle. Before leaving, she spoke quietly. I should have contacted you directly. Yes, I relied on the document and Nathan's representations. I understand what you relied on. That doesn't remove my responsibility. No. She nodded once and left. The front yard looked bare without the sign. There was still a small hole where the post had been. Kristen walked to her car without saying goodbye. Nathan remained on the porch. The mortgage folder hung at his side. What happens now? He asked. The bank deadline runs? I know that. Then you find another co-signer or different funds. We don't have either. I know. He looked through the open front door. Are you going to make us leave? You don't live here. I mean, right now. I stepped aside. Come in if you want. He entered without carrying a tool or asking me to fix anything. For the first time in years, neither of us had a task to hide behind. He stood in the kitchen where Kristen had moved the chairs. I put them back around the table. Nathan sat down, placed the mortgage folder beside him, and said nothing. Outside, Michelle's vehicle turned off Maple Street with a canceled listing sign in the back. I made coffee. Nathan watched me fill the pot. Neither of us mentioned that it was almost 11, and too late for both of us to need more caffeine. When the coffee finished, I set a mug in front of him. He wrapped both hands around it. Kristen thinks I should leave, he said. My house or your marriage? He looked at me. My marriage? Did she say that? She said, if I don't fix this, there's nothing left to discuss. Can you fix it? No. He looked toward the front window. The listing's canceled. The bank knows your house is unavailable. You won't co-sign. That's right. I told her that. What did she say? That I let you humiliate her. You signed the listing. I know. So this isn't only between her and me. I know that too. He took a drink and winced because it was hot. Why did you turn the camera? I asked. He stared into the mug. I didn't want you watching us. You were inside my house. I know. Did Kristen tell you to do it? No. That was me. That answer mattered more than blaming her would have. Why did you keep the key? I had it from your surgery. You knew I changed the garage code. Yes. Did that tell you I wanted you entering? Yes. He said it so quietly I almost missed it. I sat across from him. What did you think would happen this morning? You'd come, I'd ask. You'd be angry. And then you'd sign. Why? Because people were here. He finally looked at me. You never make a scene. I didn't make one. No. He rubbed his thumb along the mug handle. I did. The bank deadline expired Sunday afternoon. Nothing happened at the bungalow when it did. No alarm sounded. Nathan's mortgage folder stayed closed beside his chair. At 4:20, he received an email from North Shore. He opened it on his phone. They're asking for documentation by tomorrow morning, he said. Then the deadline hasn't expired. It says the condition period ended, but they're giving us until 9 to submit anything already obtained. Do you have anything? No. He looked at me. He didn't ask again. That was the first different choice he made. At 5, Kristen came for him. She parked at the curb and called, instead of coming inside. Nathan stood. I should go. All right. He picked up the mortgage folder. At the door, he stopped. I'm sorry. I waited. I'm sorry I signed the listing. I'm sorry I moved the money. I'm sorry about the petition. Thank you for saying it. Is that all? For today. His face tightened. I don't know what else you want. Withdraw your statement from the petition. I can do that. Correct the parts you know are false. Okay? Tell Michelle in writing that I never agreed. He nodded. And don't ask me for money. I won't. An apology doesn't put you back in charge of anything. I understand. I don't think you do yet. He opened the door. Kristen's car horn sounded once. Nathan flinched. Then he left. Monday morning, North Shore closed their purchase file. Nathan forwarded me the notice without adding a message. The financing condition had not been satisfied. The bank would not proceed with the loan. By noon, the purchase contract was being ended under the financing contingency. Nathan later told me they recovered their earnest money, but they lost the inspection fee, application costs, and several other charges. They also lost the house. Kristen called me as soon as the bank notice arrived. You're happy now? She said. No. You got what you wanted. I kept what was mine. You cost us that house. You offered money you didn't have. We had a plan. You had my property. We had options. Both required me. You've helped Nathan his whole life. That wasn't a permanent promise." She breathed hard into the phone. "He came home defending you. He admitted what he did. You turned him against me. I asked him to own his signature. You sat there while Michelle treated us like liars. What did you tell Michelle? That Nathan had authority. Did you tell her I agreed to sell? We believed you would." "That isn't what I asked." She didn't answer. "Did you tell her I agreed?" "I told her Nathan was handling it." "Did you tell her about my written refusal?" "That email came after we started, before the listing became active." Silence. I looked at the clock. "Withdraw the competency petition," I said. "No, then we'll answer it." "You think your folders make you look reasonable? They contain dates. You've always used paperwork to avoid feelings. That petition is paperwork." She hung up. Michelle's email arrived that afternoon. It confirmed the listing was canceled, the lockbox had been removed, and no further marketing would occur. It also stated that Nathan had signed the electronic listing agreement using the power of attorney in her transaction file. She attached a copy. I finally saw the document I'd been trying to locate. Nathan's electronic signature appeared beneath my address. The certified power of attorney copy was attached as proof of authority. Kristen's email appeared as the transaction contact. Michelle also included a written note. Nathan had represented that the family had discussed the sale and that I supported downsizing. Michelle acknowledged she had not verified that statement with me. She said the brokerage would refund the unused portion of the preparation payment to Nathan and Kristen. I forwarded everything to Paul. Then I called Michelle. "I received the file," I said. "I should have sent it sooner. You should have called me before entering." "Yes. Why didn't you?" "Nathan had broad authority. Kristen said direct contact would upset you, and the consultant form said I resisted help. I saw that later." "Did the petition influence you?" "No. I didn't know it existed until Sunday." That answer separated her mistake from theirs. She had relied too heavily on the document and the story around it. She hadn't helped build the competency claim. "Will my address remain in your system?" I asked. "As a canceled listing, with a confidential note that the principal did not consent." "Can the photographs be removed from public sites?" "I submitted removal requests this morning." "How long?" "Usually a few days. Send confirmation when it's done." "I will." She did. Michelle never became a friend. I didn't file a complaint against her, and she didn't ask me to excuse what happened. She corrected the file, removed the images, and returned the lockbox. That was her outcome. Nathan's took longer. On Tuesday, he sent Paul a signed correction to his petition statement. He wrote that I had not shown memory loss, couldn't be described as physically unable to live alone, and had managed my work and household without his assistance since recovering from surgery. He also admitted that the cameras and bank restrictions followed actions he and Kristen took without my consent. Kristen refused to sign the correction. Nathan then withdrew his support from the petition. Without his statement and with the consultant correction attached, Kristen had little left except disagreement with my decisions. She dismissed the filing before the hearing. She did not apologize. Her last message to me said she was withdrawing only because Nathan had made the case impossible, not because she believed I was right. I saved it and did not reply. Nathan returned my house key on Wednesday. He placed it in an envelope and pushed it through the mail slot. No note. That afternoon, he called. "I paid the plumber," he said. "I assumed you would. The water heater's fine." "Good. I'm not asking you to reimburse me. I know." Another silence. "Can I come over?" he asked. "What needs fixing?" "Nothing." I looked at the envelope containing the key, then come over. He arrived without Kristen. We sat at the kitchen table. I didn't make coffee that time. He brought 2 cups from the place near the river. He told me the seller had accepted another offer on the new house. He said Kristen was staying with her sister for a few days. I didn't ask whether their marriage would survive. That belonged to them. Nathan looked around the kitchen. "I kept thinking this house was money," he said. "It is worth money." "That's not what I mean." "I know. I thought you'd sell eventually. And I treated eventually like permission. You treated my help like a standing order." He nodded. "I don't know how to fix that." "You don't fix it with one conversation." "What do I do?" "Pay your bills, hire your repairs. Ask before involving me." "That sounds like you don't want to be my father. It sounds like I don't want to be your financing plan." He looked down at his coffee. Can I still call? Yes. Even if I need something, you can ask, I can say no. That's going to take some getting used to. For both of us. He stayed for 40 minutes. When he left, he took his empty cup and threw it away outside. He didn't inspect the furnace. He didn't ask about the garage roof. He didn't mention the mortgage. The house became quiet again. This time, the quiet didn't feel like a bill waiting to be paid. The next Thursday, Nathan called at 7 in the evening. I was cleaning the workbench in my garage. Are you busy? He asked. A little. I can call later. What do you need? Nothing. I stopped moving a box of wire connectors. Then, why are you calling? I said I'd call without a task. All right. He told me about work. A delivery had arrived with half the order missing. His supervisor blamed the warehouse. The warehouse blamed the driver. I listened for 10 minutes. Then he asked what I was doing. Cleaning the bench? Do you want help? Not tonight. Okay. He didn't turn that into rejection. We talked another few minutes and hung up. That call was small enough that I almost forgot it. Then he called again the following week. Still no task. A month passed before one of his rentals needed furnace work. Nathan sent me a photograph of the estimate from another heating company. The amount was reasonable. The diagnosis made sense. His message said, "Can you tell me if this looks fair? I'm not asking you to do it or pay for it." I called him. "It looks fair," I said. "You're sure?" "Yes." I thought the control board sounded expensive. It is. Would you replace it? If it tests bad. They said it did. Then replace it. All right, he waited. That's it? He asked. That's it. You don't want to look at it? You hired someone. I know. Let them do their job. He approved the repair and paid the bill. A week later, he emailed me the paid invoice. I didn't ask for proof. He sent it because he wanted me to see that he had followed through. I replied, "Good." That became our pattern for a while. Nathan asked directly. I answered directly. If the answer was no, he stopped asking. Sometimes he didn't call me at all. I'd hear later that he hired a plumber or replaced an appliance using rent money. Those choices cost him more than calling me used to cost. That was part of owning them. The photographs of my bungalow disappeared from the public property sites. Michelle sent confirmation from each one. The canceled listing remained in brokerage records, but it no longer appeared as available. North Shore mailed a final notice stating that my home and finances had been removed from Nathan's closed purchase file. I filed it without calling anyone. Paul returned the unused portion of my retainer after the competency petition was dismissed. The amount didn't cover the work I had lost, but I hadn't expected it to. The customer who heard I was winding down called in November. His furnace had stopped overnight. When I arrived, he looked embarrassed. "I heard that information wasn't accurate," he said. "It wasn't." "I'm sorry," I repeated it. "Thank you." I replaced a failed igniter. He carried my toolbox upstairs again, but this time I let him because the basement steps were narrow and he was already holding it. There was no test involved. Kristen stayed away from Maple Street. She didn't call. She didn't send another form. She didn't ask about the bungalow. Nathan told me they were still together, but things were difficult. I never asked him to choose between us. I also didn't invite her over as if nothing had happened. 3 months after the open house, Kristen sent an email. It contained no apology. She wrote that she accepted the bungalow was unavailable and would not include my property or finances in any future plan. She also said she had removed my information from her files. I asked Paul to review the message. Then I replied with one sentence. "Any future contact requires that boundary." Kristen answered, "Understood." That wasn't reconciliation. It was a condition stated and acknowledged. For the time being, it was enough. Nathan came to the workshop one Saturday in December. He carried a paper bag from a bakery and no tools. I was rebuilding an old furnace motor at the bench. "What's that?" he asked. "Something no customer should still be using." "Why are you fixing it?" "To see if I can." He pulled up a stool. For 20 minutes, he watched me clean the shaft and replace the bearings. He didn't ask me to teach him. He didn't mention a rental. He ate a donut and brushed sugar from his jacket. Then he said, "I've been thinking about Mom. I kept working. What about her? She used to make me call you when I needed advice. That sounds like her." "I thought you liked being needed." "I did." He looked at the motor. "Do you still?" "Sometimes. That's not much of an answer. It's the honest one." He nodded. "I use that, yes. I didn't realize I was doing it at first." "What about later?" Later, I knew. The bearings slid into place. Nathan handed me a clean rag before I asked. I kept telling myself the new house would fix things with Kristen, he said. Then I told myself, you had more than you needed. Did either one become true? No. He wiped sugar from the bench. I'm sorry, Dad. He had apologized before. This time he didn't follow it with a question. He stayed until I tested the motor. When it turned smoothly, he smiled. That's satisfying. It is. Can I come by next Saturday? What for? I don't know yet. Then yes. The following Saturday, he came back. We changed the oil in his truck. He brought the oil and filter. He cleaned the spill under the drain pan. When we finished, he paid for lunch. A month later, he invited me to dinner at the apartment. I asked whether Kristen would be there. Yes, he said. Does she know I'm invited? She does. Does she want me there? She agreed. That wasn't my question. He paused. She said she's willing to try. I thought about it overnight. Then I went. Kristen opened the door. She stepped aside without trying to hug me. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for asking. Dinner was roast chicken and potatoes. No serving dishes, no carefully placed pamphlets, no mortgage folder on the table. For the first half hour, we talked about ordinary things. Then Kristen put down her fork. I'm not going to ask you to forgive me tonight. All right, I still think you could have handled parts of it privately. I did. You kept moving them into public files. Her mouth tightened, but she nodded. I listed your house after you said no. Yes. I thought the deadline would make you change your mind. Yes. I won't do that again. That will have to be shown over time. I understand. She didn't tell me I was stubborn. She didn't mention Ellen. She didn't explain that she had only wanted a better future. She cleared the plates. That was the first meal. It didn't restore trust. It gave us a second meal several weeks later. Before that second dinner, Kristen texted to ask whether I was comfortable attending. The question mattered more than the menu. By spring, Nathan and Kristen had moved into a smaller rental across town. They stopped looking at houses until their debts came down. Nathan sold one of the rental properties that needed the most work. He handled the sale through his own broker and used the proceeds to reduce what they owed. He told me after the papers were signed. You didn't ask my opinion, I said. I know. Why not? It was my choice to own. That answer sounded better than anything I would have advised. The garage roof still needed shingles. Nathan offered to help. I'll buy the materials, I said. I can pay half. No? Why not? It's my garage. You'd let me do the labor? If you want, I do. We spent 2 Saturdays on the roof. I showed him how to snap chalk lines and keep the courses straight. He carried bundles up the ladder, and I did the cutting. At the end of the second day, we stood in the driveway looking at the finished roof. Nathan rubbed his lower back. I understand your labor rate now. You're still not getting a discount. He laughed. We ordered pizza. He paid because I had bought the materials. That evening, Kristen stopped by to pick him up. She remained in the driveway until I invited her inside. She looked at the kitchen counter. Ellen's coffee tin sat in its usual place. I moved that during the staging, she said. I know. I shouldn't have entered. No. She looked toward me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I didn't say it was all right. She didn't ask me to. Summer came, and I reduced my service schedule by 1 day a week. It was my decision. No customer heard it from my family first. On Fridays, I worked around the bungalow or drove near the lake. Sometimes Nathan joined me for breakfast. Sometimes I went alone. He never regained access to my checking account. He never received another power of attorney. He never asked me to co-sign a loan. When a rental furnace failed during the first cold week of autumn, Nathan called his heating company before calling me. Then he called to talk while he waited. That was how I knew the pattern had actually changed. If you stayed with me through all of this, share what you would have done, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like mine. A few days later, I opened the firebox to add the bank's final notice. The original power of attorney was inside its document sleeve. The certified copy Nathan had returned still rested in the yellow envelope. I removed both and checked the pages one last time. Nathan's name remained printed beneath mine. The words had not disappeared because his authority ended. I placed the recorded revocation behind them. Then I added the brokerage cancellation and the bank notice. From the kitchen, I heard Nathan set 2 coffee cups on the table. He had come over without asking for work. I'm in the bedroom, I called. No rush, he answered. I closed the yellow envelope, placed it flat against the original document, and turned the small key in the lock. Then I locked the returned certified power of attorney copy, beside the original in my firebox.